Hi Honda.
Hi Julius.
Thank you so much for taking out some time out of your busy schedule to join me in this Coffee with Bushiroad series.
Yeah, sure. Thanks for having me.
No problem. So, could you tell me a bit about the work you do in Bushiroad?
Well, I do sales and logistics, but I'm mainly on the logistics side.
Okay. Well, I'm going to ask you a lot more questions regarding that because I think your work is mainly a lot of people don't see or don't understand what goes on behind the scenes in what makes the games possible.
Yeah.
Because I think there's a lot of logistics and transportation involved. But before that, we're gonna dig right into our pastries and coffee and tea. What would you like?
Coffee, please.
Coffee? Coffee for you? Okay,
sure.
cool. Okay, you can smell this. It smells good.
Wow.
Yeah, this smell really wakes you up. Yeah.
Fragrant.
Yeah. Go ahead and help yourself to whichever one that you like.
Alright. Which one we like?
No, you go ahead.
Me?
No. Yeah, I'll pick whatever that's remaining.
Alright, so I'll go for this.
I'm a good host.
One.
So Honda, I understand that even before you joined Bushiroad, to work for Bushiroad, I think you played a lot of Bushiroad card games.
Yeah.
What games do you play?
I play mainly Weiss Schwarz, Vanguard, and a little bit of Buddy Fight.
So you actually play our three main titles.
Yeah.
Oh, when did you start playing?
For Weiss, I started playing I think somewhere around 2008, 2009 kind of time when it first started out in Japan. Yeah.
Wow, that's like almost 10 years ago.
Yeah.
Wow. And then for Vanguard?
Vanguard, I think I also started when it first came out.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. So you actually played Weiss first.
Yeah.
How do you get to know Weiss Schwarz?
So there was kind of like a community get together to learn the game. Like they brought some Weiss products from Japan, so they brought it over to Singapore, and they actually promoted the event, like come down to learn, and they actually sell some of the stuff they got in Japan. So yeah, that's how I got wine of Weiss, and I started learning, and I liked the game.
Which Weiss Schwarz titles are you currently enjoying?
I'm really enjoying the Fujimi Fantasia set right now, especially the deck with 8 standbys. It's very interesting. And also, I really like playing Goblin Slayer, especially the Goblin Slayer deck. The overall card advantage and the abilities is very flavorful. It's gonna be a huge. It has made a huge impact in the game itself, and soon English player can get their hands on the series. It's coming out in English. Yeah, for Goblin Slayer.
Wow, I think players can really look forward to that.
Yeah.
Do you still remember your very first deck? What title was it?
It was Fate Stain Night Trial deck.
Wow.
Yeah, it was so long ago. Yeah.
And ever since then, you just continued
Yeah.
playing the game. And right now, you are actually working for Bushiroad.
Yeah.
Wow, this is kind of like, it's coming to a full circle.
Yeah.
What's your favorite Vanguard clan?
My favorite clan would be Dark Irregulars.
Oh.
I love the overall theme of the deck, artwork, card abilities. Like soul charging, it thins your deck. So deck thinning is very important in card games. You get to draw into more important cards, or it might go the other way. Like it makes everything looks exciting. Yeah, that's about.
That's your favorite.
Yes.
Ever.
Yeah.
Okay. No, back then when you are playing Bushiroad card games, do you actually think that you would, or maybe you hope that you will be able to work for Bushiroad?
So thinking that I would be working for the company would be no, but hoping that I would is a yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And back then, maybe you thought, maybe it would be great if I can work for Bushiroad one day.
Yeah.
Do you have like a job position in mind, or do you just, as long as I'm working for the company that produces these great card games for me, I'm fine with that.
Everyone would want to have a part in creating a game, so maybe a development role would be good. So that's what I think that every card gamers would want when they play the game or they like the game a lot is to have a impact on the game, on the development side, like card abilities, like you want to make cards that you love. Yeah, I guess that's it. But I didn't expect like I'll be working in other aspects of the company. Yeah.
So how did you actually get the opportunity, to work for Bushiroad?
So I was already before my national service. I was already going around helping to do demo sessions, maybe helping out at events. So when I came out of national service, I actually did part-time in Bushiroad. I was waiting for my university application. So after that, it has a bit of waiting. So I was doing fine in Bushiroad part-timing. Unfortunately, on the day I received a call from the university, I didn't get in. So I was kind of very sad, this kind, like very disappointed. But luckily, there was an opening in the sales team, and I seized the day and I applied for it.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. So what's your day-to-day like in the office?
So I start out the day with replying emails. After that, arranging shipments to distributors, packing of PR cards and sending them if there's any. Other than that, I also handle office shipping. So it's intercompany shipment. It's not like business-wise.
Yeah. So you actually have to do a lot of shippings of PR cards,
Yeah.
to our shops around the world.
It's mostly to our distributors and our overseas offices, and then they'll ship it to the shops.
What are some of the challenges that you faced during the course of your work?
Yeah, prior to shipping, there's a lot of layers of work, a lot of steps to be done in the production cycle. So if something were to happen, like maybe before shipping, I'll have to rework, reschedule all the shipments, or even rebook because it's already very last minute. Yeah, and it kind of snowballs into like this gets delayed. If this gets delayed, something after that might get delayed too. So I have to plan out everything, make sure everything goes smoothly out.
Definitely. I think it's inevitable that something will go wrong down the production line, and then I think you will have to come up with a lot of different ways, adapt, just kind of like deal with all these last minute changes.
Yeah.
So kind of like putting out fires.
yeah, exactly. Putting out fires.
Yeah. That sounds like a lot of work, and I guess it must be so demoralizing, for a part of your work to be undone, and then you have to do it all over again.
Yeah.
How do you get over that?
You need to be patient. Like you can't rush over things because it's a long process, and you need to be resilient because you can't crumble in your work halfway, and everything will snowball. And once your work is overdue, more works will come in. Work is never finished, so you kind of like you have to do it now, slow and steady. But you just have to keep going through the motion, keep pulling through it. It's kind of everyday challenges. Yeah.
Wow, this reminds me of a quote. I think it was, "If you're going through hell, keep going." Yeah. Because I think that makes a lot of sense, and I think it's kind of similar to what you just said. Because if you're going through hell, why would you stay there?
Yeah.
Just, keep going forward. Yeah. Then you can get out of there as soon as possible.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a great point.
True.
Yeah. Since you play so much of Bushiroad card games, do you think that has actually helped you in your current job?
Yeah, that actually helps me a lot in the sales side of my work. Having knowledge in the products itself helps me better sell the product, so I can pitch better. I can pinpoint the unique points, the strength of the products, and I can explain it to my distributors I can even explain it to like my colleagues to make them understand better. Yeah, this kind.
Yeah, that's good because when you're playing the card games, maybe 10 years ago, you never expect yourself to be landing a job in the company that make the games that you play. Yeah. And you did, of course, you never even expect that just by playing card games that would actually help you in your career. Oh, so really, I'm happy for you.
Yeah, thank you.
Besides arranging logistics for for shipping to our distributors, I mean, you also handle the logistics for our regionals in Singapore.
Yeah.
When we have an event, we actually have to pack everything and then send it to the venue.
Yeah.
How's it like? What's the challenge in that?
Transporting all the stuff that we need, all the event items to the event hall is not really a very difficult task. But sometimes events they need things last minute, and you have to make a rush for it. And when you're rushing for time, sometimes you forget where it is or you can't find it. You get very flustered. It's one of the few examples I have.
So yeah, you reminded me, and because I think recently I keep seeing you flying for work, and I believe recently you went to Gen Con held in USA for a B2B conference kind of thing. Yeah. So I believe that a lot of your work are done through emails and telephone calls, talking to our distributors, and then you finally met them in person. How was that like?
Through emails, you don't really get to know them. It's all formal, it's all business. So when you get to finally meet them and get them to know on a more personal level, so it's very satisfying to know, like, okay, so now I get to know more about this person and we get to work together even closer. Yeah, I think that's very satisfying. Yeah.
How were they? Were they nice to you?
Yeah, they took great care of me.
Did they bring you around for good food in USA?
Yeah, we went for meetings through dinner. Yeah.
Meetings and dinner.
Yeah.
I would like that.
Yeah.
So you get to travel a lot for work. I imagine that must be very exciting for you because I think, not a lot of jobs out there actually offer this incentive, this slight perk of being able to travel for work. How's that like for you?
So I enjoy meeting new people and people, our fans, card game fans. So I think that's one perk that I really find refreshing when I travel for work, even though I'm tired, but all the smiles on their face, like when they play the tournament, give me a sense of satisfaction. And just being able to travel for work is a blessing. So I'm very thankful and very grateful for this opportunity. Yeah.
But I imagine at the same time, it must be tiring. Of course, it's enjoyable on one hand, but especially if you fly long hours to from Singapore to US, about a 20 hours flight, give or take. I imagine it must be tiring, and then you have to help out with the events, attend some conference.
It's kind of like giving back to the community. You're helping the game grow, and you're helping yourself grow too. You go through the tiring days of work. After that, you get to recover. It's all the experiences you get. It's very memorable. And flying overseas means I get to work with colleagues that are overseas that I don't get the chance to see them. So getting to know them better is very rewarding. Yeah.
So is there any important life skill that you actually have learned in the course of your work?
Yeah, definitely. And as I've emphasized earlier, it's being patient and resilient. Things might not seem worth it right now, and as time goes on, it will add up. So small adjustment matters, I guess. Small feats matters. So maybe you go for an extra sale, maybe it's just very little, but each time you go for the extra sale, it adds up to be a lot. Yeah, so you have to be patient and resilient because you're not always gonna get it. Yeah.
Is there anything that you can share with us, for anyone who might be interested in joining the sales or logistics industry?
So the sales and logistics industry is very big. there's the consumer side, the business side. So if the industry is this big, there's a lot of job opportunities for you to work there and gain some experience.
What are the skills that you think are important in sales and logistics? I imagine probably driving might be one of them.
I guess sales and logistics, driving is important. Maybe if you have prior experience in maybe forklift, if you have a license in forklift, it's very easy to get a job in warehouse. They need forklift drivers. You have to be very practical in logistics, because logistics is a very heavy on numbers, and also sales. There's also very heavy on numbers and figures that you need to work it out.
Wow, thank you so much, Huanta, for sharing with us so much insights into the job that you do. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for having me too.
No problem. Miss, please. A description of your job in Bushiroad.
Yeah, I do sales and logistics.
Thanks, bro. Hi, Huanta.
Hi, Julius.
Thank you so much for taking out some time out of your busy schedule to join me in this Coffee with Bushiroad series.
Yeah, sure. Thanks for having me.
No problem. So, could you tell me a bit about the work you do in Bushiroad?
Well, I do sales and logistics, but I'm mainly on the logistics side.
Okay. Well, I'm going to ask you a lot more questions regarding that, because I think your work is mainly a lot of people don't see or don't understand what goes on behind the scenes in what makes the games possible.
Yeah.
Because I think there's a lot of logistics and transportation involved. But before that, we're going to dig right into our pastries and coffee and tea. What would you like?
Coffee, please.
Coffee?
Yeah.
Coffee for you? Okay,
Sure.
cool. You can smell this. It smells good.
Wow,
Yeah, this smell really wakes you up. Yeah.
fragrant.
Yeah. Go ahead and help yourself to whichever one that you like.
All right. Which one we like?
No, you go ahead.
Me?
Yeah,
Sure.
I'll pick whatever that's remaining.
All right, so I'll go for this.
I'm a good host.
You want?
So Huanta, I understand that even before you joined Bushiroad, to work for Bushiroad, I think you played a lot of Bushiroad card games.
Yeah.
Yeah, what games
Yeah.
do you play?
I play mainly Weiss Schwarz, Vanguard, and a little bit of Buddy Fight.
Oh, well,
Yeah.
so you actually play our three main titles.
Yeah.
Oh, when did you start playing?
For Vice, I started playing, I think, somewhere around 2008, 2009 kind of time when it first started out in Japan. Yeah.
Wow, that's like almost 10 years ago.
Yeah.
Wow. And then for Vanguard?
Vanguard, I think, I also started when it first came out.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. So you actually played Vice first.
Yeah.
How do you get to know Weiss Schwarz?
So there was kind of like a community get together to learn the game. Like they brought some Vice products from Japan, so I brought it over to Singapore, and they actually promoted the event, like come down to learn, and they actually sell some of the stuff they got in Japan. So yeah, that's how I got wine of Vice, and I started learning, and I liked the game.
Which Weiss Schwarz titles are you currently enjoying?
I'm really enjoying the Fujimi Fantasia set right now, especially the deck with 8 standbys. It's very interesting. And also, I really like playing Goblin Slayer, especially the Goblin Slayer deck. The overall card advantage and the abilities is very flavorful. It's gonna be a huge. It has made a huge impact in the game itself, and soon English player can get their hands on the series. You know, it's coming out in English. Yeah, for Goblin Slayer.
Wow, I think players can really look forward to that.
Yeah.
Do you still remember your very first deck? What title was it?
It was Fate Stain Night Trial deck.
Wow.
Yeah, it was so long ago. Yeah.
And ever since then, you just continued
Yeah.
playing the game. And now, right now, you are actually working for Bushiroad.
Yeah.
Wow, this is kind of like, it's coming to a full circle.
Yeah.
What's your favorite Vanguard clan?
My favorite clan would be Dark Irregulars.
Oh.
No, I love the overall theme of the deck, artwork, card abilities. Like soul charging, it thins your deck. So that thinning is very important in card games. You get to draw into more important cards, or it might go the other way. Like it makes everything looks exciting. Yeah, that's about.
That's your favorite?
Yes.
Ever?
Yeah.
Okay. No, back then when you are playing Bushiroad card games, do you actually think that you would, or maybe you hope that you will be able to work for Bushiroad?
So thinking that I would be working for the company would be no, but hoping that I would is a yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And back then, maybe you thought, maybe it would be great if I can work for Bushiroad one day.
Yeah.
Do you have like a job position in mind, or do you just, as long as I'm working for the company that produces these great card games for me, I'm fine with that?
Everyone would want to have a part in creating a game, so maybe a development role would be good. So that's what I think that every card gamers would want when they play the game or they like the game a lot, is to have a impact on the game, on the development side, like card abilities, like you want to make cards that you love. Yeah, I guess that's it. But I didn't expect like I'll be working in other aspects of the company. Yeah.
So how did you actually get the opportunity, to work for Bushiroad?
So I was already before my national service. I was already going around helping to do demo sessions, maybe helping out at events. So when I came out of national service, I actually did part-time in Bushiroad. I was waiting for my university application. So after that, it has a bit of waiting. So I was doing fine in Bushiroad part-timing. Unfortunately, on the day I received a call from the university, I didn't get in. So I was kind of very sad, this kind, like very disappointed. But luckily, there was an opening in the sales team, and I seized the day and I applied for it.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. So Manta, what's your day-to-day like in the office?
So I start out the day with replying emails. After that, arranging shipments to distributors, packing of PR cards and sending them if there's any. Other than that, I also handle office shipping. So it's intercompany shipment. It's not like business-wise, you know.
So you actually have to do a lot of shippings of PR cards,
Yeah.
you know, to our shops around the world.
It's mostly to our distributors and our overseas offices, and then they'll ship it to the shops.
What are some of the challenges that you faced during the course of your work?
Yeah, you know, prior to shipping, there's a lot of layers of work, a lot of steps to be done in the production cycle. So if something were to happen, like maybe before shipping, I'll have to rework, reschedule all the shipments, or even rebook because it's already very last minute. Yeah, and it kind of snowballs into like this gets delayed. If this gets delayed, something after that might get delayed too. So I have to plan out everything, make sure everything goes smoothly out.
Definitely. I think it's inevitable that something will go wrong down the production line, and then I think you will have to come up with a lot of different ways, adapt, you know, just kind of like deal with all these last minute changes.
Yeah.
So kind of like putting out fires.
yeah, exactly. Putting out fires.
Yeah. So that sounds like a lot of work, and I guess it must be so demoralizing, you know, for a part of your work to be undone, and then you have to do it all over again.
Yeah.
How do you get over that?
You need to be patient. Like you can't rush over things because it's a long process, and you need to be resilient because you can't crumble in your work halfway, and everything will snowball. And once your work is overdue, more works will come in. You know, work is never finished, so you kind of like you have to do it now, slow and steady. But you just have to keep going through the motion, keep pulling through it. You know, it's kind of everyday challenges. Yeah.
Wow, this reminds me of a quote. I think it was, "If you're going through hell, keep going." Yeah. Because I think that makes a lot of sense, and I think it's kind of similar to what you just said. Because if you're going through hell, why would you stay there?
Yeah.
Just, keep going forward. Yeah. Then you can get out of there as soon as possible.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a great point.
True.
Yeah. Since you play so much of Bushiroad card games, do you think that has actually helped you in your current job?
Yeah, that actually helps me a lot in the sales side of my work. You know, having knowledge in the products itself helps me better sell the product, so I can pitch better. I can pinpoint the unique points, the strength of the products, and I can explain it to my distributors. I can even explain it to like my colleagues to make them understand better. Yeah, it's kind.
Yeah, that's good because when you're playing the card games, maybe 10 years ago, you never expect yourself to be landing a job in the company that make the games that you play. Yeah. And you did, of course, you never even expect that just by playing card games that would actually help you in your career. Oh, so really, I'm happy for you.
Yeah, thank you.
Besides arranging logistics for shipping to our distributors, I mean, you also handle the logistics for our regionals in Singapore.
Yeah.
When we have an event, we actually have to pack everything and then send it to the venue.
Yeah.
How's it like? What's the challenge in that?
Transporting all the stuff that we need, all the event items to the event hall is not really a very difficult task. But sometimes events they need things last minute, and you have to make a rush for it. And when you're rushing for time, sometimes you forget where it is, or you can't find it. You get very flustered. It's one of the few examples I have.
So yeah, you reminded me, and because I think recently I keep seeing you flying for work, and I believe recently you went to Gen Con held in USA for a B2B conference kind of thing. Yeah. So I believe that a lot of your work are done through emails and telephone calls, talking to our distributors, and then you finally met them in person. How was that like?
Through emails, you don't really get to know them. It's all formal, it's all business. So when you get to finally meet them and get them to know on a more personal level, so it's very satisfying to know, like, okay, so now I get to know more about this person, and we get to work together even closer. I think that's very satisfying.
How were they? Were they nice to you?
Yeah, they took great care of me.
Did they bring you around for good food in USA?
Yeah, we went for meetings through dinner. Yeah.
Meetings and dinner.
Yeah.
I would like that.
Yeah.
So you get to travel a lot for work. I imagine that must be very exciting for you, because I think, not a lot of jobs out there actually offer this incentive, this slight perk of being able to travel for work. How's that like for you?
So I enjoy meeting new people.
Welcome back, everybody, to day 2 of Bushiroad Rumble Online 2021 for the premium format. Hashtag BRO 2021 to let us know about any crazy events that you see. I am once again Toku from Yellow Card Vanguard, and I am joined once again by Philip from Top Deck Heroes, as well as Peter PBE. Peter, are you ready for day 2?
Oh, I'm excited. We got to see a lot of great matches, and a lot of those people that we saw play yesterday are playing in this top 8. We've still got... actually, Philip, how about you talk about some more of this top 8 and about who's playing, about what the clans are?
Man, I gotta get this first out of the way. Woo! Day 2! We got here. It's gonna be hype. We got a couple of people in the top 8. First off, we got Royal Lover. Yesterday, we got to see 2 matches with him, see his deck in action. It'll be interesting to see where he goes. He's gonna be facing, if I'm allowed to say the standings, I believe, he's gonna be facing King Udon immediately in the first match. Another matchup we got immediately after that is Hakase versus Maxime Solemn. We know that name very familiar. He managed to get up in the rankings and get himself in top 8. After that, we got Suo versus Chalice. Thank you. And last but not least, Notorious. Help.
Notorious Set.
Notorious Set.
Thank you. I am terrible with reading. That's why hashtag reading it hard exists. But they will be fighting Zio. So all of these people managed to make it to the top, fight in day 1, get their nerves settled, and just play the best Vanguard they can play. Ain't that right, fellas?
Absolutely. Now let's quickly run through the breakdown for this weekend again. If we could just have the day 1, day 2 schedule pop up on screen for us here. So yesterday we went through the best of 8, or like 8 rounds, best of 1 Swiss format. And today, day 2, is going to be a Top Cup elimination, and it's going to be the top 8. But BRO is not just about premium. We've once again got some great events in the upcoming weeks as well. Slide on to the next slide, and Peter, why don't you tell all the lovely folks at home what to expect in the upcoming weeks?
Absolutely. Thank you for having me give the... handing it over to me. We got V Premium next week. V Premium, you can use some of that stuff from V Clan Collection. Everyone should be getting their stuff pretty soon if they have not already got it. Because, V Premium, definitely a grindy format one that's, pretty long gameplay. And that's always exciting to watch. Then, a few weeks later, in January, on the 8th and the 9th, we got Standard, which has a 512 entrant cap instead of the 256. So that's going to be huge. And that's going to be really exciting to see just so many players fight it out for the top. And then the week after that, we have Weiss Schwarz on January 15th and 16th for the Swiss and top 8/16. And that's going to be exciting. Be sure to check that out. And Philip, how about you talk about the prizing?
We talked about the prizing yesterday, but this is now where it is at. We have 8 players, and only 4 of them are actually going to walk away with something. All 4 players that managed to make it to the top 4 are going to get a certificate. However, gold, silver, and bronze are going to get some extra goodies. With third place getting a promo of Brenwyn. Only 1 copy, but next to that, they're also going to be getting a box of V Clan Collection Volume 4. Yes, you heard me right. Volume 4, the one coming out in March. For second place, we're also going to be getting 2 copies of Brenwyn and a box of Volume 4. And first place is going to be walking away with a playset of Brenwyn, as well as the box of V Clan Collection Volume 4. Overall, these players are probably excited. They want to make it to that top. They want to get their promos, get their boxes, and just have bragging rights, in all honesty.
For sure, for sure. So yeah, like yesterday, we saw a whole bunch of strategies that we can talk about. Let's quickly give a rundown about what happened there. We saw, like we did say at the beginning, a lot of representation was Grand Blue. And as we see in our top 8, 50% of the players are repping Grand Blue in the top 8. Not only that, we've also got like some singleton contenders. I believe OTT is one. I believe Genesis as well. Pale Moon. You guys happen to know what the 8th one is?
Don't look at
Let
me.
me.
I am terrible at doing research beforehand. I
Hey.
go with the flow.
No worries about that. But don't let us talk about the video format. Philip, run us into the clip.
Oh, yeah. Roll a clip!
Welcome to the Bushiroad Rumble Online 2021. Today's tournament will be played in the premium format, and we can't wait to get started and see all the exciting plays and unique deck ideas that the players will be bringing. Before we jump into it, let's brush up on what makes the premium format unique and what you can expect to see today. In the premium format, players bring not only their constructed 50-card main deck, but it is also accompanied by a G-Zone. An additional 16 cards composed of various cards that aid you throughout the game and can be accessed easily. Unlike the standard format, the decks are built around one of the 24 different clans that belong to the nations that you may be familiar with through Overdress. The 2 types of cards that you will find in the G-Zone are Strides and G-Guardians. Strides are cards that have a red border around them and are various warriors that come from either the past or the future of the Planet Cray setting. Strides have a power value, a cost that must be paid if you wish to access the stride, as well as the effects of the card. In order to stride, you have to meet one of the following conditions. The first is if both you and your opponent have a grade 3 Vanguard, then after the ride step, there is the stride step. This is where you can choose to pay the cost of stride, which is typically to discard cards in your hand whose grades add up to 3 or higher. There are also special grade 1 and grade 0 cards that are regarded as grade 3s in your hand when you discard them for stride, which you will see quite often. After you pay this cost, you can choose one of the face down strides in your G-Zone and place it on top of your existing Vanguard on the Vanguard circle, turning the card under the stride into a heart card. This is the process of striding. Now the stride will inherit the original power and card name of the chosen heart, thus combining the 15,000 power of the stride with the card underneath it, thus totaling 28,000. At the end of turn, the stride card will return to the G-Zone face up, and your Vanguard returns to its former state from the beginning of the turn. The other approach to striding is when you have spent at least one turn on your grade 3 Vanguard, thus starting your turn at grade 3 even if your opponent hasn't ridden their grade 3 yet. There are some decks in Premium that are able to jump ahead and superior ride to stride earlier, so make sure to keep this in mind. Strides have a variety of powerful abilities that help the player adapt to any situation, so make sure to use this powerful toolbox called the G-Zone alongside the cards in your main deck of 50 cards. There are 2 special types of strides in addition to the regular forms we've seen so far: Progenitor Dragons and Zeroth Dragons. These cards are unique in that they do not belong to a single clan, but rather encompass the entire nations that the clans belong to, such as Dragon Empire or Stargate, otherwise known as Brantgate as well. These symbolize the beginning and the end, either bring additional life to your game plan or putting everything on the line to finish it all. In order to stride a Progenitor Dragon, a player must discard a card of the same name as their Vanguard. The Progenitor Dragons each have unique abilities, but one shared ability is that after they have returned to the G-Zone face up, they will allow you to stride without paying the cost for stride for the rest of the game. The Zeroth Dragons also require you to discard a card with the same name as your Vanguard in order to stride them, but they have an additional restriction needing to have at least 3 face-up cards in your G-Zone to stride, thus making them quite the late game finishers. Be careful though, when you stride with a Zeroth Dragon, your entire G-Zone will be removed from the game, leaving you with your 50 card main deck, so be sure to time these finishes well. As previously mentioned, strides aren't the only type of cards encompassing your 16 card G-Zone. G-Guardians are a powerful defensive mechanic which is also brought to the playing field from the G-Zone. All G-Guardians have a green border as pictured and are called using the same method at all times. During your opponent's battle phase, one of your opponent's units attacks and you would be able to guard while both players' Vanguards are grade 3. You may discard a heal trigger from your hand to choose to face down G-Guardian from your G-Zone and call it to the Guardian Circle. G-Guardians have various abilities that either bolster your defense or interrupt your opponent's plays, making them a key factor in any player's game plan in the premium format. There are plenty of other incredible mechanics and types of abilities that make premium unique and exciting, whether it be Generation Break, Legion, Limit Break, Imaginary Gifts, and many of the other unique mechanics that have been introduced to the game throughout the years. You can even make a premium deck out of the recent Overdress decks. Just keep in mind, there is no Rye deck in this format. That's all for this brief explanation of the premium format. Let's wish all the participating players today the best of luck, and we hope that all of you watching at home enjoy the show.
Thank you once again, Bushiroad, for providing us that very insightful video onto the premium format. But though insightful that premium format video was, not as insightful what the brackets are going to look like. And these are the top 8 players who know the most about the premium format in the NA and LA region. Starting off at the top there, like we said, match 1 is looking to be Royal Lover, representing Grand Blue against King Udon. In the second bracket, we have Hakase versus Maxime, a Solemn Vanguard. Peter, why don't you tell us about the rest of the matchups?
Yeah, we got Suo, who we saw yesterday. I'd say last night, technically, because it was getting pretty late. Using Genesis against Chalice. And Notorious Et using Grand Blue against ZO.
Righty. So, very excited for this matchup. We do know that there's at least one Grand Blue player in each of the brackets, and I do know that Notorious Head is also playing Grand Blue, so maybe one Grand Blue in each of them, and I wonder if we're going to get just Grand Blue in the top 4.
I mean, if I remember correctly, it is like half of the top 8, like in terms of like all, I'm pretty sure it's what, 4 Grand Blue in the top 8? Like,
yeah.
What,
4 Grand Blues in the top 8, so chances of Grand Blues sliding through to semifinals very quickly. But from word of production, it looks like Deck 1 is ready for preview.
Ooh.
We got... Nope, that's prizes. Good reminder to have people what they're going to be fighting. But a very familiar deck to everybody tuning in yesterday, Royal Lover. We already seen this deck twice, but we're going to go through it one more time for anybody new that's come in, wanting to see how the finals are turning out. And I'm going to leave it to you two, because you guys have been going on about Grand Blue way over my head.
For sure. We've seen this deck list 2 times now yesterday, and we are once again blessed going into top 8 today. This is Royal Lover's Grand Blue list, more focused on Beatrice and the Ghosties, and we saw how the defensive gameplay of Beatrice was able to get Royal Lover those games, as well as the overtriggers. Peter, do you have anything new to add on to about the main deck list here?
Yes, also there is specific counterplay here in the form of Bikun as a way to deal with decks that can attack with the Vanguard multiple times, which is over half of the decks in Premium nowadays. So things like Grand Blue, things like Pale Moon, things like Kagero, things like OTT, which actually there is one OTT in this top 8, so that's a good tech option to really put in there. And the addition of Mick, the Ghosty, and Family, which, if I remember correctly, is still limited to 1. Might have been unrestricted a while ago, but that's a good option as well, just for giving yourself that extra 10,000 power on your opponent's turn, because that does actually get to be called directly from Negro.
For sure.
Completely correct.
But let's get into that
another
G-Zone.
thing. Yes.
Oh.
You're good. Go for it.
So once again, just reviewing the G-Zone, the 2 big strides of Grand Blue right now, Big Obadiah and Bad Bounty Ghost Ship. Big Obadiah is that infamous stride, able to selectively mill 5 cards out of your deck and Spirit Call some from the drop zone based on your number of face-up G-Zones. Just a good way to set up all your essential pieces And let's not forget Bad Bounty. Not only does this rewrite from drop zone get you another protect marker, but it lets you selectively rewrite into whatever you've previously milled out. More often than not, as you saw in Royal Lover's deck list of that 1-up Night Rose, we will be riding into the Night Rose for her on-attack skill to reanimate a column.
You're completely correct. But another card I like that we've seen actually Royal Lover go into a couple of times is the Progenitor Dragon. And that is just a good way to guarantee yourself, okay, I'm going to eat your hand even more. I'm going to guarantee myself, if I have the necessary cards in hand, to just stop you from, being able to guard my attacks. Get that a little bit of extra insurance on my side.
Exactly. We did see Ballon Arena come up in that last game against Suo, where each time Suo called the G Guardian down, Royal Lover had the card in hand to just go ahead and retire it. And having just that extra pressure where you're not sure if your opponent's going to be able to retire your G Guardian or any kind of Guardian if your opponent doesn't have that PG, it's just extra threatening to end the games out.
100% agree. There's also another combo here. We talked about how this deck can prevent multiple Vanguard swings, but there's another combo to prevent some key rearguard swings we saw it used a couple of times, and that is the combination of the G Guards with Cannoneer, if I'm not mistaken.
Exactly.
Negro Lily can call out actually quite a few things because of cards like Beatrice being able to call out other things and being a ghosty. So you can use Negro Lily to either call out Mick directly, or you can use it to call out Rick the Ghosty, which is at a 1-of in this deck, to just be a 25,000 power interceptor, or 25,000 shield interceptor. And then you can also just get the option of calling Beatrice, which opens up the options. You can call out pretty much whatever you want, so whatever the situation calls for.
And we are also ready to review what Royal Lover will be up against in this first match of round top 8. Go ahead and bring up our second deck, and let's take a look at what they're looking at. Oh.
Unfortunately, this is not an order. It's actually going a little bit across the board. So we're actually going to be looking at Suor first, and a nifty Genesis deck, Regalia specifically.
Once again, yeah.
Go for it.
Once again, we're seeing Royal Lover and Suo's matchup once again here. Royal Lover bringing the Grand Blue, Suo bringing the Regalia there. Just like yesterday, using that Yggdrasil and Norn engine to get the restanding Vanguards off. A lot of selective soul charge through Hemera and Shiny Angel to get all the Regalia names needed into your soul. And obviously, you got to feature off that Martinoa Overtrigger. With the number of rearguard grade 3s that we have, that Overtrigger gets us a lot of value if we're able to trigger it on the offensive.
Especially with the Regalia combination of Norn, being able to restand not only your Vanguard and getting dealt multiple dragons like that, but as you said, if the Overtrigger gets ripped and Norn is on the rear guard and restanding that grade 3 rear guard, you'll get even more dry checks that way. Overall, this deck is very efficient in what it wants to do. Divine Equip Gauge, standing my Vanguard, standing my rear guards. But one weakness that we did see yesterday playing against Royal Lover, ironically, is the fact that eventually you run out of deck. And you gotta really understand your tempo game, and Suo, I think, does. It just, if the game goes too long, there's not much you can do.
Let's go ahead and take a look at the G zone, remind ourselves of what's being run here. So obviously the key main pieces here is Ultimate Regalia of Almighty Minerva. Just like yesterday, this is the stride that we look to go into the most, getting that extra drive check, getting that extra restand. So at ceiling, Minerva alongside the Norn is 3 attacks from the Vanguard on a force 2. But definitely, let's not forget about the G-Guards as well. We saw the flipping G-Guard here, Laurier, being able to refill our deck when it came to that critical point where we were threatening deck out. So definitely shout out to this card right here, being able to protect that loose con. And definitely got to highlight the Dismal being able to protect any sort of rear guards, our Yggdrasil or Norns, from any kind of interruption. Peter, you have anything else to say about the G-Zone?
I mean, you've covered pretty much everything, but I mean, there is also Earth, who, as you've mentioned before, you can get that little... Sometimes you just need to close out a game and you see they don't have a perfect card. Just go for that Soul Blast 6 a bunch of times and just go for the restanding swing. That's always an option.
Always an option. I'm curious as to see whether we get to see that in action. And if not seeing that in action, maybe this time we'll also get to see the usage of Marduk. being a card that lets you stride on your first turn at grade 3 while your opponent's still on grade 2, should the counterblast and the soul be sufficient. Let's go ahead and take a look. Oh, go ahead.
Last thing I just want to say is, we have all these nifty G units. I'm honestly might even want to see Amaruta in play, just seeing that necessary scenario where Amaruta might be the best choice to go to.
For sure. Now, let's go ahead and take a look at the third deck of the top 8. King Udon will be representing one of my favorite clans, an Oracle Think Tank.
Ooh,
Obviously,
big brain plays.
obviously the two big key pieces here in any kind of Oracle Think Tank in Premium is that grade 3 Amaterasu you see in the top left, as well as key grade 0 in Magical Calico. For those of you unaware, what you can do is if you have a Magical Calico in hand and you have Generation Break active, you can use Magical Calico to reveal 3 copies of Amaterasu from your deck, which will then proc her effect to give your Vanguard 10k and a crit 3 times. Combine this with one of any kind of stride, namely Momo, even on Ishishima. This can lead to a very quick lethal turn.
You're not wrong. I do love the implications of this deck. We've seen this deck in the past a little bit more, I want to say efficient, whenever Zazan was still able to be included. But without it, even without that card, this deck is still strong. Like, we see its merit. It might manage to get all the way to top 8. King Udon managed to take it all the way to top 8. So it's not a deck to just easily dismiss. I will say, with all these combos, you need to know when to use them and when to be sparing. Because, correct me if I'm wrong, once you do that Calico combo, and you don't have it anymore. You don't have Grave Recursion in this deck.
Right.
No.
It's going to be a very key game of timing, knowing when to push, knowing when it's the right time to push, and just being sparing with your resources. I do want to see the G-Zone, though. Sorry.
Oh, yes, you're right. Let's get into the G-Zone first, because this will actually give a good insight as to one of the things I was about to say. So we got Momo. Momo, very strong card. You can actually restand your Vanguard, and doing that in combination with Calico, just like you mentioned earlier, you could do that. Stack all of those crits onto your Vanguard. Hope they have 2 perfect cards, because if they don't, they are going to not enjoy what's hitting them.
For sure. And what is great to mention about OTT is how many separate win cons they have as well. Like, we thought that Link Joker Glendio's Gize deck was a lot of win cons. OTT is also about to boast about the same amount. We've got the Momo Calico combo. We have Ichishima and Tom being able to completely stop your opponent from guarding anything save for protect markers and unique things. We've also have an old stride in Lord of Guidance Wakahirume, with the effect to counterblast 1, soul blast 1 if you are an Oracle, to draw a card and to stack a card on top of your deck. Now, before, normally this would only be a crit, but since the induction of Overdress, we can also start stacking over triggers.
Mm-hmm.
That is gonna be big. Like, if you see that over trigger on the top, you're set. Like, I can't say nothing else. You're set.
Yeah, and not only that, that means that you're able to also sometimes even just do this as a tempo play, in addition to just a finishing play, by just put the over trigger on top, which is a Martinoa, and then you get to drive check on your rear guards as well. So if you have the over trigger in hand, you can go into that, call 2 grade 3s, and just get a huge value play.
And speaking of grade 3s, I do want to go back to the main deck right here, and I do want to focus on the other 2 grade 3s that we see here. Facili Magus as well as Hexagonal Magus, or as I like to call her, T-Pose Magus. So Facili Magus has a very cute effect that says once per turn, you can counter blast 1, soul blast 1 to give one of your Magus named Vanguards 10k and a drive for the turn. Now remember, as we said before, if you've strode it onto your Vanguard, you keep the heart's name. So even if you strode Mobile over your Hexagonal Magus, you're still considered a Magus name. So that Momo getting that restand, that's getting that extra drive check.
All right. With enough of this big brain deck out of the way, I want to see the next one. I want to see Hakase, this beauty of a Pale Moon deck.
Ooh.
So speaking of big brain, who else has big brains except for professors? And Hakase sure is a professor. So this this looks like the standard WCC special Nightmare Doll deck. The main strategy is a strategy that I love to preach on about, and that is the ability to ride down into a grade 2 through the use of Nightmare Doll Carol. Nightmare Doll Carol specifically does not have to say that you have to ride down into a grade 3 Nightmare Doll or a Worker Roid to lose 1 drive and attack with. You can go back down into a grade 2. And as we do know of how strong momentum and tempo strides are, being able to hit grade 3 first, get that extra axle marker, but then deny the ability for your opponent to stride through the use of Carol, very strong.
Am I missing something with the deck name? Or is that just genius?
Hashtag fun and interactive overtrigger.
They're talking about that Galmagahel, which is probably the overtrigger that has the least variance in terms of how good it is. It's pretty much just as good no matter when you check it, because its effect lasts for the rest of the game.
Exactly. A couple of games yesterday, we talked about seeing a couple of Pale Moon decks, a couple of even the Spy Brother deck that Living Proof was playing, running the Cray Elemental Overtrigger just because their Vanguards don't really restand. They don't get much out of getting 10k and a critical for the rest of the game. But I believe this deck is a little bit different in that aspect, and it can actually benefit from this Overtrigger more than the rest of them.
That
Yes,
is
you are
absolutely correct.
exactly, because you can actually get that. You can re-ride through striding, and you can get 2 Vanguard attacks. And I mean, restanding Vanguard with a critical, that's pretty scary, I'm not gonna lie.
For sure. And let's not forget about big mentions to this Cray Elemental on the left here. Earth Elemental Rollock. Now, as we said before, this deck strategy is to ride down to grade 2, but you're not looking to get aggressed that much. You're not looking to get aggressed that much, so you do want Rollock there to provide defensive options since you are riding down to grade 2. Having Rollock there to prevent your Vanguard from being hit while you're grade 2 is very, very crucial to your game plan. But let's take a look at the G-Zone as well.
Ooh, I see a dust. I see a dust.
Yes. There's Dust, there's Dark Lord Princess, which is, I mean, that's generally the first stride that you'll see a Pale Moon player go into very often. It's very good. You get to then, call back out, especially with Yvette. Yvette's also very good for that. They sort of have a little combo that they're pretty much like a little pair, They, you don't get one without the other most of the time.
For sure, yeah. Just like you said, we have the 2 Megatrix Strides and Yvette and Dark Lord Princess, but we also have Masquerade Master Harry in the G-Zone there, being able to, while face up, give all of your Magia Rearguards an extra 3k for each copy of it. And once after we've resolved Dark Lord Princess and Yvette, any Magia Rearguards you get, that's just extra power.
I mean, this G-Zone is exactly what it wants to be. It has a focus. That Overtrigger even makes even more sense with the selected G units we see. And I do love the inclusion of Harry. Just being able to bump any of your Magia units, getting that necessary power up, is giving yourself more insurance, in all honesty.
And
Indeed.
also, one thing I just wanted to mention as well, Harry's cost is choose 2 cards in your other circles, not choose 2 of your rear guards, which does mean that if you play against Link Joker, this unlocks your cards, but it doesn't even unlock them, it just puts the lock cards into your soul. So that means Chaos Breaker will not work against this.
Yes.
To mention. Let's go ahead and take a look at the next deck.
Mr. Maxime Solemn Vanguard himself. Oh boy. Before you guys start ranting about this, because I know you guys have a lot of opinions, I just want to say this is, to me, this is almost looking as a Highlander Grand Blue deck.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the beauty of Grand Blue at the moment as a Highlander deck even, or a lot of one-of tech options, is how selectively they can mill out their deck through the use of Big Obadiah. So you see a lot of these one-ofs in Nightstorm, Night Rose, even the inclusion of Night Mist, a very old card with a Limit Break 4 ability, Limit Break 4 Break Ride ability, Skeleton Cannoneer, even some cute tech overdress options here. The one of Ghost Ship. being able to selectively mill those cards out of your deck into your drop zone and reanimate them whenever you wish. The deck is just very strong in its toolbox and its decision makings and its branching trees.
We see the
That's
inclusion
very
of the two
true.
Krell elementals there as well. The Rollock we just mentioned before in the other list, as well as Honolly. Just I see almost every single way to get out of something in this deck, except for I guess lock. But you're really not worried about lock if you just retire your stuff before it gets locked.
Yeah.
And then I also want to give a big feature to the Honolly. As we do know, like big feature to the Honolly, there's a lot of matchups in the top 8 where we're looking at a lot of multi-attack. And being able to just selectively reanimate that Honolly into said matchups is very key for us here. But also a big mention to the new grade 3 that we don't see in many other lists, and that is Night Mist. A lot of people will be sleeping on this card because they don't know about the Limit Break 4 Break Ride ability that you can re-ride into Night Mist, stride into Bad Bounty, and use an after Bad Bounty skill resolves and you re-ride into Night Rose from the drop zone, you also get the Break Ride active.
Mm-hmm.
Not only that, like it is one copy of in the deck, so you need to see it to really ride it and go off of that. But again, you can mill it into your drop zone and get Bad Bounty, and just like the perfect scenario would be using Bad Bounty and riding on top of it. But if you're early in the game, low damage, Limburg for not activated, it's like, all right, Bad Bounty swing, ride this. I'm not gonna get the full out of it, but now I'm on him. So once you put me a Limit Break 4, I'm gonna do some shenanigans.
Yeah, and not only that though, so expanding on the idea of the break ride itself, you can actually get 14 attacks if you have 5 open damage if you are on Night Mist and then break ride onto Night Rose through Bad Bounty. So it's pretty scary.
Speaking of Bad Bounty, let's look at what else Maxime Solm is running in their G zone.
Oh,
That's a lot of cards in G zone.
that's yeah, that's got a little bit of ahead of ourselves there. That's Chalice's deck, but to Maxime's deck, to the
Yeah,
G zone.
We'll get the Chalice here in a second. We need to fully appreciate what Mr. Saul and Vanguard has to offer.
Yeah, I mean, with spicy techs in his main deck like that, I mean, I want to see what his G zone's looking like. If there's anything interesting, like maybe just some random stride that we've never seen before. I know that some people in Japan have been playing Negro Songer. Doesn't seem like he is though.
So a fairly standard G zone throughout most of the Grand Blue list. Here we see those 2 copies of Big Obadiah, the pair of Bad Bounties. What is different from Maxime's list that we didn't see is a copy of the GB8.
That is, you're completely correct. Like, we're used to strides and ships, but I haven't seen this one yet. Or I haven't at least seen it in play, and it does have a very interesting ability that when it's placed on Vanguard, choose 5 cards from the drop zone and call them a separate rear guards, and they get 10k, which is a big number. And then on top of that, then in a turn, at the end of that turn, you retire all those units, so your hollow effects activate, your any other effects activate. It's basically Grand Blue on a stick.
Exactly. And speaking of Grand Blue, I think we got a sneak peek of Chalice's deck. Let's take a look at what Chalice brings to the table, and hopefully let's see if Chalice has any cute techs that weren't run before. Now, instantly, what pops up to mind between everyone else's deck and Chalice's deck is the inclusion of that King Serpent.
Man, that brings me a blast of the past. I haven't seen that card since G.
Yeah, that's an old card. And not only that though, they're running 3 perfect guards total. 2 of them being Dolph the Ghosty, the one you want to ride, and 1 copy being the one in Stoicheia that you don't have to discard if you are at a low enough hand count. And I've seen a lot of people actually running perfect guards like that in premium now. Like, I mean, there's obviously like an Overlord, you run Twin Buckler Dragon because you can guarantee the free cost, but some of these other decks, like, they just run a copy or 2 just in case they can search it. pretty
I
good.
can kind of start seeing why. You gotta understand, Grand Blue is one of those decks we've seen it play in multiple action. Hand size is a decent par. You can PG basically out of your drop zone with certain G guards. On top of that, you are still a Protect clan. You're getting Sentinels every time you ride, even with bad bounty. So getting more PGs is not a problem. So you can bump one of those down and bump another key piece in your deck back up.
For sure. And let's take a look at what Chalice runs in the G zone there. And not much to really talk about, except for, once again, the inclusion of Roseate Night Rose. Peter, do you have any comments to say about the inclusion of Roseate Night Rose?
I mean, Roseate Night Rose sort of just fills the same purpose as Big Obadiah, but you get a crit on your Vanguard, so that's really what you're running it for. It's pretty solid, but most of the time you're not going to be going into it, especially compared to these other things in the G zone right now. Like, for example, the Bad Bounty, Big Obadiah. GB8 is even more common to see than Roseate sometimes. Ballin Arena, that's a win condition in its own. Like, let's be real here. That card, especially because of things like Greed Shade, which you can just bring back a grade 1 into your hand that was not a grade 1 originally. You can just make it so it's easier and easier to use Ballin Arena's win condition.
Absolutely agree. And it looks like the next deck is also ready for us to review. Let's bring it on up. And the featured player will be Notorioset, once again bringing another copy of Grand Blue with a few more tech options that we did not see in other lists. Namely, I'm seeing some Cray Elementals here in tier for some needed counter charge if we have face-up Cray Elemental G zones. I also love the inclusion of the Nectar Order here.
Mm-hmm. That's
Man,
exactly
I was talking
what I was
about Solemn having a Highlander-ish deck. was not ready for this one.
Yeah, this has 30 different cards in the main deck, and including, we haven't seen this yet. This is the first time we've seen this in this build. Violence Flanger. Violence Flanger is its own win condition as well. So we're getting back to that sort of Glendios style of that Glendios we saw yesterday, where they just had a bunch of different win conditions. This has a bunch of different win conditions too. You got Violence Flanger and all of those strides as well.
Exactly.
The deck that's running so many critical triggers like that is going to be very dangerous.
Yes. The plan sort of is just to use Violence Flanger's skill, then almost stack your deck. It's practically stacking your deck by just thinning it so much, and you could use things like Negrobone as well to then guarantee that, like, if you're at a low deck count, like say you're at like 2 cards in deck, you use Negrobone, you're at 4, and then you guarantee that your top 2 are whatever is left, which is hopefully critical triggers. Stack that onto Violence Flanger. They cannot guard it.
Now,
And
I do
big
want to
shout
point out
outs to the one-of copy of Skeleton Navigator here. Something we like to call an English special. If Grand Blue didn't mill out their deck fast enough, we do have Skeleton Navigator, which is just tap 2 rear guards and send the top 5 cards of your deck to the drop zone.
Man, are you sharing the rent with Glendios in my head? Because you just read my mind. Like, I was about to mention that card. And Navigator is such a key piece inside of Night Rose and V Premium. I'm actually happy to see it be played in Premium as well.
And the difference between V Premium and Premium are the introductions of strides. Let's take a look here.
Oh, hello. Oh, hello. I see
Oh.
a Cray Elemental.
Cycloned?
This is very interesting. So, Notorioset is choosing to include Cycloned in their G zone. A card that says, when face up in the G zone, all of your units without any abilities gain a bonus 5k. Let's quickly jump back to the main list here.
Yeah. I want to do a Where's Waldo.
What do we see that doesn't have any abilities? I'm looking at only triggers at the moment.
There's only a heal trigger that I can see.
Yeah, that's it. It's literally just the heal trigger. That's the only vanilla in the deck. So they are opting to completely cut. They're opting to completely cut Heal Guardians in exchange for Rick the Ghosty. It could also be because I do know that some people do not yet have their Heal Guardians. That maybe this is like saying, okay, because I can't run Heal Guardians yet, because I don't have them, I'll just run Rick the Ghosty in a way to make Rick the Ghosty even better.
And let's not forget about the inclusion of that Rain Elemental tier as well. Now that we do have Cray Elementals in the G Zone, and 2 copies at that, Rain Elemental tier is able to become a Soul Blast 2 on Call to Rearguard to become a Counter Charge 2.
Yes, I believe, honestly, yeah, Cyclone might be in the deck just because of tier, and that's quite alright. Like, this is the way this deck wants to play. I want to point out immediately something. It's kind of a spot the difference. We've seen like 3 Grand Blue decks here in the last few minutes, and there's a key difference between this one and every other Grand Blue deck we've seen, and that's the not inclusion of not even the Progenitor or the Ultimate Stride.
Very interesting that you mentioned that. And as we saw back in the original deck list, Notorious Head is also not running those 4 copies of the Bone Dragon to make use of the Megiddo. So that might be why we only see the inclusion of Cyclone here rather than the 2 Progenitors.
Now, I would love to see what he's going to actually be fighting against. So, on to the next deck, we have...
ZO.
Hey, a Shadow Paladin and a Lord at that.
Looking very almost old school, using the old Dragfall and the old Dragheart Luard. So we're not seeing any source of force marker generation that we are most common to using the V Luard deck. But as well, we are running a very robust V engine through a singleton copy Morfessa for multi-attacks, Leafall, and also a little bit of a consistency between the Nevane, the Dumpwood Dragon, and the singleton copy of Blaster Dark to ensure at least a grade 2 ride.
I need help. That one grade 1 next to Dagda is so familiar, and it's burning into my brain how it feels like a staple of some sort.
Knees. It's just the grade 1 that says on ride, you can check your top 7 for a copy of Leafall or Dragheart Luard and add it to hand. Just one of your standard grade 1 rides in the V format. Try and increase the consistency of your deck to be able to get through your grade 1, 2, and 3 a lot more safely and consistently.
We've seen a lot of through this tournament how GSS still being a part of the game can really impact the game. So just being able to find those grade 3s that you need, especially in a deck that only runs 5 of them, reassurance is always nice. I do want to see, however, what this G-Zone does look like, because it could be your standard Luar G-Zone with the former Fessas, but I only see 3 of them this time.
I think one of the cool inclusions of this G-Zone that we didn't see before is Drag Anger Ogma. This is a very old card, and I do remember Drag Anger Ogma having some sort of hand shred ability.
Yes. You retire cards, and your opponent has to retire and or discard as equal amount as what you retired. So, and it's grade 1s that you retired. So,
If you're
it's
playing
pretty good for that.
Oh my god! I think we're looking at a Shadow Paladin that kind of predicted the Grand Blue was going to be a thing. Because think about it. You're fighting Grand Blue.
Yeah.
They don't have a board. If you Ogma them and you kill a full board, that is eating 5 cards out of their hand.
Mm-hmm. It's super scary. And
At the
Oh, wait,
same
are
time
there any-
too. Yeah, I also see Phantom Blaster Diablo also for the Grand Blue matchup there. I see a lot of Grand Blue hate in this deck.
yeah, this is definitely a deck where it's like, okay, I'm going to play against a lot of Grand Blue, and because of that, I want to be ready for it. I want to make my chances as good as possible.
I do find it very interesting, the inclusion of Rancor. I guess, like, you have your OG Luards. They don't have any good Vanguard abilities, if I recall. So I guess he's only there for that GB3, 3 or more cards from hand guard ability?
To agree, but let's not forget, the big main stride of any Shadow Paladin deck will be that Drag Principal Morfessa. Being able to get to that Ritual 10, getting that front row 15k and critical buff, that's what's going to close out a lot of the games a lot of the times. And we did see the inclusion of Dagda to be able to get those multi-attacks off as well.
Overall, I'm actually liking the deck. We've talked about it with Solemn and everything, how he's got a lot of pieces to combat your opponent, doing stuff from the Hanali to other cards. But this deck is doing the exact thing, but prepping for Grand Blue, just being ready, because predicting. All right, there's probably gonna be a lot of people running Grand Blue. Let me not only be threatening with my deck with Morvessa, but also be ready and stop them doing what they want to do.
Yes, and not only that though, but I do know that well, we'll talk about that actually first into this match. We're about to get into our first match of the top 8. Apparently these fighters
Yes.
are raring to go, and I'm excited to see it.
I'm very excited to see. Now that we know like what ZO's G Zone is looking like with the inclusion of the Drag Anger Ogma, I want to see if Zio is able to take down all of these Grand Blue opponents. And we are starting off the game. On the left, we have Hakase representing Pale Moon, and on the right, Maxime Solemn playing Grand Blue.
Yes, and one thing that I've been told by several people in WCC is nobody grinds like Maxime. Maxime he grinds, he tests all the time. And apparently he was sick yesterday, so while playing, he was going pure muscle memory from all of that testing. Really just shows how strong he could be.
I gotta
And
give the man props. I remember whenever he first started doing, I believe is a premium Death Anchor build. He even made a nice little documentary about it. But the amount of time the man has put into building that deck, finding necessary combos, and then taking it and showing what it's worth. I believe he got first place in that regional, taking Death Anchor, Death Anchor DI.
Yes,
I'm not
yes.
yeah,
remembering incorrectly. Yeah, there we go. So it just shows his dedication, and just this is what a true competitive player is like. Spending the time, finding all those combos, playtest after playtest. I don't even want to know how much mileage under him he has prepping for a tournament.
for sure. And over on Hakase's side, we ride into the Grave 1, a Nightmare Doll, which actually allows us to Soul Charge 1 on the ride. Going for the swing here, and off the top of the deck, we do find the Nightmare Doll Lindy, a heal trigger, so no extra damage there, but very good assuration that you're not going to be aggressed too much, as you do have the defensive heal trigger.
Hmm. Now this is a
Ooh.
card we saw Maxime's list. It's a Stoicheia card. Simple effect, retires itself, gives 2 units 5k, which just makes sense in a Grand Blue deck, but having to ride it is good, bad. Hold up, you are playing against a Protect clan, aren't you?
Oh,
Oh, Excel clan.
interesting. Maxime had Colombard in hand, chose not to ride it. Maybe planning on then reviving it later in the game before he starts soul charging. So that's gonna be interesting to see.
Actually choosing to mill out the Rough Seas Banshee here.
Hmm.
Deck thinning our deck by that one trigger, and maybe opted to call it just to suck it back into soul for, instead of a +1 to board, a +1 to hand.
Hmm.
And just like that, we're going to go ahead and use Rough Seas Banshee to go into soul and to draw one. Just filling up our soul here, it looks like. Now, normally, a lot of the times when you see Coolenbard come down early, we're calling out that Stormride Ghost Ship. Do you think this kind of telegraphs that Maxime might have that Singleton copy in hand right now?
Hmm.
That might be the case. Also, one thing to consider here is the fact that Maxime now has the Water Spout Jin, which cannot be used from drop zone as a perfect guard for Negronora, because it is one of the it's one of the countercharge perfect guards. So that means that you can only do it from hand.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Looks like Maxime has pulled out a strong offensive here, attacking with 3 different units, also calling that Greed Shade down. Let's not forget about that. And off of Greed Shade, we were able to pick up one of the premium collection crits in Wild Seas Banshees.
And that's going to be a big power play for the later turns too, because that Wild Seas Banshee not only fills up your soul, but also lets you get power to your Vanguard, which makes it so that normally one of those smaller swings on your turn is actually holding quite a bit of power there, really being threatening on its own.
I do like to see this leaving your opponent at 1 damage, because I do believe the rearguard still could have hit. So this was a calculated play.
Mm-hmm. Did not want to
Exactly.
let... Yeah, because Nightmare Dolls is one of those decks where the more damage you give them, the more attacks they get, and you do not want to let Nightmare Dolls get a lot of attacks this early on.
Now let's take a look at what Hakase did. One of the key combo pieces in a Nightmare Doll, Leslie and Alice chain combo, and that is Guinea. being able to cycle Ginny and Alice out onto the board just gets your Leslie swinging really hard, and each time that your Alice swings, also that plus 5k buff makes a huge difference. We see Ginny attacking, and it looks like a guard going to pro. Oh, and because we're still on grade 2, this is a perfect guard. Using that roll lock there. Going to go ahead and pass it over to Maxime.
We're seeing those tech options immediately start showing their merit.
Yep. And Maxime does not want to take too much damage early. That's one of the great things about Beatrice. He's going to Soul Blast out the rough season. I think just call it right back out too, which, I mean, that's pretty strong. You know, you can just get like that immediate +1 to hand, and this just gives Maxime so many options. So far, he's only burned a few cards from hand, and that's been from either calling or just guarding once that turn. So, I mean,
These Banshee is getting a lot of value.
Yes, and that's the overtrigger.
That is a very early overtrigger. Oh my!
And this is exactly what we were talking about yesterday as well, of how much momentum this gives. It's a heal, a critical trigger, and a draw 2. So you get to end the front. So that means that if Maxime wants, he could push right here. And it won't push for game, but it will really hurt Hakase's position here.
Exactly. Like, not only, like you said, because they're both at 1, all effects are live. We get that heal, we get that extra crit, we get that front trigger, especially since we haven't even attacked with our front row rear guards yet. And then we also get that 100 million power.
Man, but I don't know how I feel about this for Song, because the strategy was damage and ice. So are you still going for that strategy? You have almost a way to put your opponent at 4 damage here in this one turn.
I think at this point, it all depends on how prepared Hakase's hand is to combo off on the first stride there. Oh, and that heal was actually incredibly high value. Let's not mention that first damage was Hanali. Being able to heal that off as well now leaves it live for like any kind of like resurrection, any kind of like that looks like a crit as well.
Oh my! Wow. Okay, so this is 3 damage, and if Maxime wants, he could go for game right now. Especially like if you're pushing lethal turn 3. Pushing lethal turn 3.
Still?
Getting a count on Hakase's hand here, I count 8 cards as well as that quick shield. 7 cards as well as that quick shield there.
But if you don't have a PG, you're staring down the barrel of that 100 million attacker on the rear guard.
And not only that though, so there's a 100 million and also front trigger of the over trigger. So you could give 20,000 to one rear guard and then an additional, and then the 100 million to the other one. So, I mean, those are not numbers to scoff at. 29 and 100 million and 9. Ugh.
Man, this has turned. This whole game has turned from slow and calculated to go burr.
Getting that defensive draw, very good to feel. Second damage check, no defense trigger. Third damage check, no defense trigger.
Oh, and that's 2 Ginnies gone. That's not good.
You definitely don't want to see those Ginnies gone. Luckily, we do still have 1 in soul, but the moment that Ginny gets popped through the Skeleton Cannoneer G-Guard call effect, a lot of your combo potential is off. It looks like we're going to attack with the smaller Kulanbard there, getting that quick shield out of their hand. Luckily, that defensive trigger does help a lot in staving off these attacks. This last attack here, just only for 1 damage, I believe.
Do you
100 million.
Yep.
Oh, and there's the roll lock.
Yep, coming into play. And Hakase was surprisingly pushed to near lethal there, but luckily able to actually have what it takes to survive. And because of the defensive draw trigger as well, that does mean that they can actually do a bit more in terms of like, or they only need to burn 2 cards from hand to survive that. They're at 9 cards and now back to 8 and 9 because of Excel 2. So they have a bit to work with.
Your blood's got to be pumping because you're sitting on this position where your opponent is intentionally damage denying you in the early game. And you think, all right, they're probably going to swing with Vanguard. They got nothing else to swing, so they can draw their cards. So I'm gonna take this damage so I can get some CB because they're probably not gonna swing with their rear guards because they're not gonna want to give me damage. And you get hit by an over trigger and a critical trigger, and that just changes everything in an instant.
For sure. And then we do see Hakase re-ride, or apologies, ride into the Carol. And it looks like
Not
we're
yet,
just deciding
rewrite,
on.
not yet.
Yeah, just looking to figure out what to stride into. And off of Carol's on-ride skill, we are going to look at our top 5 cards on the top of the deck and choose one to put into the soul. Then if we put a grade 3 Workroid, which we did in a second copy of Carol, we can call it to rear. So this Carol is going to come out to the right side rear guard there. And after
I do
all of
wanna
our
ask you
on-ride
too-
abilities, yeah, go ahead.
I do want to ask you too. How would you feel in this position? Do you just keep playing normally, or did that over trigger shaking you up? Like, preferably you want to play normal, you want to play your game, but can't really shy away from the fact that over trigger showing up. Do you try to play more defensively? Do you try to keep going with your game plan that you had originally planned, or do you just adapt to the situation? Your opponent is at 0, you are at 4. You got all the CB needed for your combos, but is it going to be enough?
I think at this point, we either need to match the tempo, like we need to find those our heal guardians of ourselves, maybe even get our own over trigger to try and like put the aggression back on, because we do know that Maxime Sultan does have the grade 3 heal guardian in hand as well. So even if we were to damage deny here, over onto Solemn's turn, we could just stride, call down that heal guardian, and get that damage we need to perform all of our abilities.
And not only that, though, but so because we know Hanali is in the drop zone, and because we saw Maxime drive check earlier in the game a Beatrice, I'm pretty sure Maxime has another Beatrice in hand, which means that means he could go for maybe a Perfect Guard, discard Beatrice, then Negrily call out Hanali, and then suddenly Hakase has to deal with Hanali
Mm-hmm.
in this big turn, because you really need to push at least some so that you don't like fall too far behind, because like as we've talked about before about like that about Bless Favor's momentum swings that it can do, like it made it like it's going to be quite a tough task for Hakase to really, get that like momentum back, really snowball it back into their favor.
Oh. Offensive overtrigger on the front as well.
No way.
What a way to start off the top 8 with both players getting their offensive overtriggers on the turn that was probably the most impactful and the most needed for both of them.
Oh my. But unfortunately for Hakase, this would have probably been a better overtrigger to hit if it were earlier in the game, because that's one where then it just but because it's the first grade 3 turn, or technically the first stride turn, this does also provide the Vanguard of 2 swings with a critical, which is exactly what they needed, because that means that it's 2 swings that can actually push for lethal, or at least help push for lethal, without worrying about Hanali, because Hanali only affects the rear guards.
Exactly.
I don't know about YouTube, but this is one way to start top 8. This is one way to start the quarterfinals.
Exactly. This is anime at its most existence here.
That's the exact thing I was like. When I saw the overtrigger check by Hakase as well, I'm like, this is anime right here. This is anime moment.
Exactly. And on the third check, we also get a crit trigger, so we're gonna instantly push Maxime to 3 here.
Woo!
Over trigger, draw trigger, crit trigger, and you got to understand, you draw a card, which means there was 3 triggers out of the top 4 cards.
Whew.
Actually, you drew a card because of the over trigger. That means there was 3 triggers out of top 5.
Yeah, and let's not forget that after Dark Lord Princess, we will restride into a copy of Yvette. So just like Peter said, that's going to be one more attack with the benefit of that Dark States overtrigger.
Man.
And that's sort of the benefit that the Dark States overtrigger has in Pale Moon. You re-ride your Vanguard. I mean, that's also the benefit that it has if you want to run it in like Dark Irregulars as well, or in Gear Chronicle, honestly, because you get the triple Vanguard swing. It's a pretty good overtrigger for a lot of Dark States' different options. Oh, that's the Night Mist in drop now, or in damage now, which means no 14 attack combos.
But we're not done yet. Maxime Solemn was fortunate enough to get that double defensive. Now, this double defensive puts Beatrice at a hefty 32k, and I don't believe that any of the other rear guards will be able to hit, namely that Megatrick Dark Side Princess. But we are still having that Yvette there, and I do believe that Hakase put that 100 million on the booster.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because wait, is that? I don't think that's the one that can restand.
It's not one that can restand, but now because the 100 million is on the booster, that Vanguard attack is 100 million with 2 crit. So luckily, we didn't see the protect marker come out of Maxime's hand, so we do have a way of guarding this lethal swing.
Yeah, this like it has one drive check, but like you don't want to risk getting hit with the crit on that swing. That would just blow you up.
Yeah, this is not a moment where you go big or go home. This is a moment where you calculate guard. Don't just, immediately die this turn.
Yeah, and because we know Maxime has a heal in hand, you might just go for Hanali now. Like, honestly, because I don't think there's any way that, or maybe wait a bit before, like, for the attacks to
How
start
many
getting
more
to the
attacks?
fifth.
Yeah, but how many more attacks are there going to be?
It's
Well,
going to be the Yvette swing, and there should be two more, it looks like, coming from that grade 2 on the left that got some trigger powers. And off of Yvette, we're going to call another card from our soul to that extra Excel marker there, and that will gain 15k from Yvette's skill.
one of the things to consider though now, neither of these players have to worry about their combos being ended by an overtrigger. So
Both of
Yeah,
them
but the
got
ga-
their defense. Yeah.
The game went from 0 to 200 in like 2 drive checks.
And the funny part is this was both on both players' first drive checks of like their big grade 3, grade 4 turns.
If we really look at and examine the situation, like, yes, the overtriggers have impacted the game, but I want to say that Hakase's overtrigger came at a very better moment than Maxime's could have. Because Maxime had his first grade 3 ride, couldn't stride, did have a Beatrice, did produce a decent board, but that's not Grand Blue. That's not the premium Grand Blue we know. That's not really a good optimal turn, and you're really not I can do things on my grade 3 multiple attack combos. It was a good overtrigger, but compared to Hakase ripping it on the first Vanguard swing on his first stride and having a follow-up Vanguard swing after that, it's just the timing cannot be compared.
We will see that first G guard coming out from Maxime Solemn's side, the Corpse Dragon there. Milling that
Okay.
2 off the top to gain an extra 5k. Apparently
Yep.
that's still taking the damage though, just getting that G guard in for that face up G zone.
Yeah, so one of the things there is face up G zone does help for going into Big Obadiah because Big Obadiah calls 2 for every face up G unit in the G zone. So that means that you'll be able to call 4, which is pretty strong. And when you do that, that means that, I mean, you can build your board back up immediately. And I'm guessing that Maxime's probably because of how many times he's been doing rough seas, maybe just rough seas again, just get that cycle in. I mean, normally, like that's a really smart play that normally is an unintuitive play of just not going for, or of milling the trigger so that you can actually keep drawing over and over.
And we're going to go ahead and resolve some end of turn skills through the Magia, as well as the Nightmare Doll Abigail there. End of your turn, we're going to retire the unit that was behind our Vanguard, and we're going to return a grade 3 Workoroid from our soul to hand. Then, if we are on a Workoroid, namely their Nightmare Dolls, we can also countercharge one. Now, the card we did manage to pick out of our soul was a second copy of Carol. And with how many G units was flipped face up through the use of Dark Trick Mega Trick Dark Side Princess as well as Yvette, Dusk could happen next turn.
Yeah. And I mean, as long as Maxime is at that 4 damage, then Dust's damage can go off as well. So that means that you can guarantee that Maxime's at 5 unless he heals again.
And like what we've seen is we've seen a lot of heals come out recently from Grand Blue side of things.
Now, what do you like? We see him riding a new Beatrice, getting a protect marker, ensuring his, sentinel in hand, because now you're staring at the barrel of a double critical Vanguard every time it swings. Getting those protect markers is very necessary. And all of this right now happening, the column bar, the Beatrice, is during the ride phase. But what I want to talk about is the stride phase. What do you go into? Is your drop zone where it needs to be already? Or do you just go into Obadiah and really set it up? Or is Bad Bounty already an option?
Probably wants to get a Night Rose into drop zone, maybe.
Yeah,
Oh,
I
and
think
that was smart actually, calling out the Columbard again. You could just cycle it a bit more, make that so that instead of having 5 new cards in the drop zone, you can have 6 from the deck. That's pretty good.
Exactly. And on top of that, getting a Skull Dragon out. But this is the key part here. I'm trying to find out, what do you stride into? Because you're staring at the barrel of an opponent that has a very threatening Vanguard and 13 cards in hand right
Ooh.
now.
Okay, so Bad Bounty is the play here, apparently. Because there's that Night Rose in the drop zone, they can actually go for the combo. I don't remember if they have any way to countercharge right now, though. So if they do, then yeah, it'll be able to get to 10 attacks. You could get to 8 with 3 counterblast open.
I think the most
I'm
important
looking-
thing for Maxime to do is actually end the turn on that Honolly with that Honolly on board.
Mm-hmm.
I'm looking through Maxime's deck. I'm not seeing instantly a way to countercharge mid-battle phase. I do see that old school Grenache, but that is a hollow effect at the end of turn where you countercharge too. But mid-game countercharge, I'm missing it.
Yeah, normally most people will run the grade 2 Jesse the Ghosty as a mid battle countercharge, being able to retire itself to call the grade 1 Ghosty and countercharge 1. But not something that we see in Maxime's list here. So whatever Maxime has to play with, that's all he has to play with.
Yeah, he's only got Grenache. He doesn't have Cutlass. He doesn't have Jesse. Oh, he also does have during his opponent's turn countercharge though, in the form of Water Spout Jin, because he has a copy in drop zone right now.
I
I'm
like
gonna go
what
ahead
he's
and use
doing right
Greed Shade.
here.
Oh,
Yeah, using Greed Shade.
probably get a Water Spout Jin. Oh, or just Beatrice. Oh, adding Beatrice to hand, interesting. Oh, wait. I think I see what the play is here.
And now we see why Maxime opted to go for that early gameplay of just calling a bunch of Rough Seas Banshees out, not only being able to filter for hand pieces, but to build up that large amount of soul.
Yes, and that's going to be perfect because he's going to be getting 6 attacks this turn because he doesn't have Night Storm. So because of that, he's going to be able. Oh wait, Oh wait, no, he does run the 1 Night Storm, yes, but I don't think he got it. And this is perfect though because now he has 2 Counterblast open, and that's all he needs to get the Night Storm active, or not Night Storm, the 6 attacks because you get 2 with the Skull Dragon, attack with Night Rose, and then you call out a Beatrice and a Skull Dragon, which Beatrice calls out another Skull Dragon. So, yep,
Man.
just attack with Vanguard.
I can tell you too right now, I could never be a Grand Blue Pair. To me, my head is just not registering calling over the same rear guard because it's like, but that's rear guards, that's value. Why is the value going back to drop zone constantly?
Sometimes you just got to stop thinking about it in a way of like, in terms of like, oh, but I'm going minus. And instead, oh, but this card in the front row will be worth so much more. And I actually want that card back in the drop zone for later.
Exactly, and that's what we see coming from Maxime's end of things there. Opting to not really go into combos to end on the Bone Dragon or the Skull Dragon, but actually looking to start with the Skull Dragons, and then just every attack will be a Skull Dragon, which just makes it that much harder for Hakase to guard these attacks.
You got to look at the numbers right here. We have a Hakase with 13 cards in hand, and you're staring down the barrel of a Vanguard and 2 Skull Dragons right now. There's probably going to be more cards like them coming in multi-attack form, but those Skull Dragons are big. That's going to eat minimum 2 cards that are at hand, and those 2 cards are more likely going to be PGs. And if you don't have PGs, that's more cards out of hand, and that slowly starts to, accumulate, and you're losing hand and have any.
Yes, and another thing to consider as well, this 31,000 power attack is the smallest attack of the turn. So it's going to be 2 card rips, pretty much 2 cards ripped every single attack. And that's threatening because that means that out of these 6 attacks, they might need to take out 10 cards from their hand, and they've got, what, 11?
Mm-hmm.
I do like this about premium, like the different mindset coming from a primarily standard perspective, where you have those options of just using one card to guard because the numbers are just right there. And you look at premium and you look at these hand sizes and you go 13, 15 cards in hand. That's crazy, but you really got to understand the situation. 13 cards in hand seems a lot, but it really isn't when you're facing such numbers and having to use them to guard, and everything just uh multiplies, like everything scales appropriately.
Indeed, 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 indeed. And it looks like Hakase will go into their first G guard of the game. Going to a copy of the Dragon, I believe. That looks to be Wandering Dragon, with the ability that on placement on the Guardian Circle, Soul Charge 1, then we can also call a card from our soul to the Guardian Circle as well, which is basically doubling that shield power, especially with the introduction of grade 1s with just base 10k shields. Deciding on what to call it from the soul here.
Yeah, because they don't have that one grade 3. I forget the name of it nowadays, but or I always blank on the name. The one that they don't run that grade 3 that, can actually send the opponent's rear guard to the soul. Because of that, they can't actually use Wandering Dragon as a disruption play here.
I was actually about to ask because the way you guys described this specific G guard, it gets anything out of Assault to Guardian Circle. And I'm like, is there anything like a Cannoneer in Pale Moon to just disrupt your opponent?
There is, but Hakase is not running it.
What we can call, though, is we can just call out the Hades Hypnotist, the Draw Sentinel, if we had any in Soul, and that would work as a perfect guard as well.
I do love whenever getting perfect guards in different ways outside of from hand started getting introduced to the game, like G guards getting them out from deck, or in the sense of Cannoneer or Grand Blue, especially getting them from your drop. Different decks getting them from Soul and other locations. And it's just very, very fun to see. But a lot of times you still have to remember those perfect guards. Yes, they're coming out of different resources in your hand, but to pay their cost, you still have to use hand.
Indeed. And it looks like the card chosen to guard with was just another crit trigger. Ooh. And we do see the first trigger of
Crits.
turn, and that is a crit.
Is he going all to Vanguard? Is this go
First,
big or go home moments?
Okay. It did
only
not
one
work.
trigger.
Oh wait. No. Maxime cannot countercharge mid battle phase because they just got the Night Storm. If they had one more counterblast, then he would be able to hit 8 attacks this turn.
Speaking of Night Storm, going ahead and dishing that Night Storm off of the drive checks there, as well as the Tommy Bros. And the last card to dish to go ahead and re-ride, actually ditching the Gustajin there.
Yeah, you want Water Spout. I would think he wants Water Spout Jin because he's got 2 in drop zone. So this is the third one, and that would have helped him countercharge as well because he'll be at no face-up damage at the end of this turn, considering, he's got no Grenache on board.
I do want to mention, I love the play that Maxime did of putting everything to Vanguard. Your opponent gave you the option of, it could have been 2 to pass, it could have been 3 to pass. Regardless, they gave you the option, oh, I hit enough triggers, I will pass. And he knows he runs a lot of criticals, which means he could have ended the game right there.
Exactly. It's also a play that I respect a lot, is that like when your opponent gives you the opportunity to win, you can play on that opportunity, and if it happens, it happens. Because let's not forget, we're still looking at a few more Skull Dragon effects, Bone Dragon, Skull Dragon attacks.
Yeah, it'll be 4 Skull Dragon attacks this turn, which is, I don't want to be on the receiving end of that.
So this is the first Skull Dragon attack, and look at how big that drop zone is. We didn't even go into the big Obadiah. We don't have the Navigator for that instant mill 5, but even then, this Skull Dragon is very large.
Yeah, if Hakase does not have 3 perfect guards, then that might be game.
Now, let's not forget that both players are on 4. Maxime still has some heals, I believe, in the deck. Hakase also still has some heals in the deck. So heal triggers are still live at this very moment. So Hakase could take a damage, see what it is, and decide on what to do for the next few attacks.
For sure.
I do like the fact that the 5 heals both players had in deck have dwindled down.
Mm-hmm.
Just thinking about how to guard and how to play through Maxim's turn on the defensive side of things as Hakase. Obviously, got to do those calculations, trigger ratios, all that fun stuff.
This is the thing I mentioned before. You're staring at a barrel of Skull Dragons, and that drop zone is beefy, which means these are big numbers. And we see right here, you got to take at least one of them, because if you don't have a PG that eats only 2 cards out of your hand, you're wasting a lot of shield, and you're just looking your hand size dwindle and dwindle and dwindle down.
Mm-hmm. And I think this is push for game right now.
It could definitely push for game, yeah. Hakase took that 5th damage, hoping for a defensive, hoping for a heal trigger. And it looks like at this point then, we'll have to play on the guards. Going to go ahead and throw down that first PG for not even the last Skull Dragon attack, because we've still got Night Rose to swing here.
This is
Yep,
something we
and-
mentioned.
Oh.
Sorry about that, but this is something we mentioned yesterday of knowing your guardians and knowing your opponent and just calculating the numbers a little bit of ahead of time. Hakase probably knows this matchup. He knows that there's going to be Skull Dragons coming in. He's staring the barrel of those big ass numbers again. Is this one of those situations where we talked about of, okay, can I guard all this? Yes, we're fine. Or I can't guard
Oh
all
my.
this.
Okay.
but-
Okay. That was
Love
so.
this play. I
that was
love
so
this
smart.
play.
2 Beatrices, because normally the play would be just to go for Beatrice and Skull Dragon, but because he went 2 Beatrices, he actually gets to then Soul Blast 2 to get 2 Skull Dragons, which means that they're both going to be just a little bit bigger, which is exactly what you want in this matchup.
Yeah, there we
Not
go,
only
more
the fact
numbers.
that just a bit bigger, but like I want to definitely highlight the fact that the premium collection stride that goes to Soul on your Vanguard attack, Maxime saved it for this attack specifically.
Mm-hmm.
Like, because 22k from Night Rose's skill, that's actually very easy to guard. But the moment you add in that extra 10k to get to 32, that's where you gotta like, that's where you hit like a new breakpoint.
Yeah, because then even if you do a 10 or 20,000 shield G guard, you still have to do a bit more just to make it a 1 to pass.
It looks like 3 more attacks for the turn over on Solemn's end of things. Going to go ahead and go into that flipping G guard in Kinesis Megatrade Coulthard. Just going to go ahead and confirm the amount of different grades we have in Soul for Coulthard's plus 15k skill.
And
we're
with
not
a
running
15k,
Starry Pop and Dips options, so no Gray Force.
if he gets 15 as well, then that might be, what is it? With a 15, that makes it so that it's a 2 to pass right now. So if he wants to guarantee no hit, then yeah, go for an extra card. And hopefully for Hakase, they have the last 2 perfect guards in hand, because these last 2 attacks are going to be gigantic.
Exactly, and it looks like from Hakase's hand, we also got another grade 2 to make this, if it's 30k, 40, this should be a 2 to pass, if not a no pass.
I want to say it was really hard to count there on screen, but I want to say Solemn has somewhere in the range of 25, if not more, cards in his drop zone.
So
Yeah,
at base,
so-
that's already plus 50k to each of these Skull Dragons.
Ugh, that's strong. That's really strong.
It looks like so over on Hakase's end of thing, through Coulthard's skill and also the 5k grade 2 from hand, we're looking at 35k shield with our base 2. And it looks like Hakase is given the okay for a 2 to pass.
Oof.
Whew.
Oof. We've seen a lot of triggers already on Maxim's side. Yes, we've deck thinned the deck, though triggers are going to be a little bit easier to hit. But it is still, statistics. How many triggers have already hit? How much did we deck thin? Over trigger is out, so there's no, 1 trigger guarantee I'm going to hit.
I think.
And I love what he's doing. He's counting.
Yeah,
This is
I
a
think
counting game.
I think if you hit a trigger on the first check, you just give it all to Vanguard, because if the opponent has 2 perfect guards, it won't matter what the Skull Dragon's power is.
Exactly. And like we see Hakase's hand. Hakase's hand is even like after those first few attacks, Hawkins' hand is still standing healthy. Now it
You
just
know,
depends whether or not we have those perfect guards, or if there's just a bunch of triggers that we're going to just throw down for the 2 last Skull Dragon attacks.
we've seen in the early game one perfect guard get ripped on the drive checks, and we've seen probably that same perfect guard be used here a little bit while ago. And I'm looking and I see another perfect guard in the damage zone. So Hakase really needs to have both of his remaining
Yep.
perfect guards in hand.
Yeah. This is a really. Oh, that's not a perfect guard.
Are we hard guarding?
Is that enough?
I mean,
I wouldn't. Oh wait, no, that's the grade 1 perfect guard because they run several grade 1 perfect guards.
yes, you are correct. Oh, wait.
Just going,
Looking at the deck list, I don't see any grade 1 perfect
Oh wait,
guards.
you're right. You're right. No. That's a
This is a hard
different card.
guard.
Yeah, no, this is a
we're
hard
hard guarding.
Wow.
We're hard guarding these last few attacks.
Hopefully,
And
it has a perfect
unfortunately,
guard.
Maxime was not able to get any triggers to give bonus power. So, and the last attack is a perfect guard there.
Wow.
That's
Okay,
3.
and
That's
this
3
hand.
perfect cards out.
This hand is looking tiny now. 3 cards. It's going to go up to 4 for the draw for turn, but
Let's not forget that Nightmare Dolls, being a Pale Moon deck, their toolbox is in their soul. So they kind of have an extension of where to play their cards from.
Oh yeah, I
Yeah.
need to ask something because I'm looking at 2 options here. One is the Honolly we've been always mentioning. I feel like that Honolly needs to come out somehow through a G guard to prevent the multi attack that might happen. But at the same time, Solomon needs to think about a little bit in the future. Would a potential play if he can
Is this
seek and guard
dust?
multiple things? Is
This
it
might
really?
be dust.
Yeah, just discarded a grade. Just discarded another copy of the Vanguard. This could just be dust here, which actually turns off G guards, which would turn off Hanali as well.
Ooh boy.
That might be the play here. Just go for dust, turn off G guards because then they can't Hanali and he's deciding. He's pondering it.
He does have the option of dust. He's discarded a necessary piece for going into dust, but hasn't picked it yet.
What would you guys try in this situation? Dust is an option. Obviously, we can go into like the Megatrix again. I honestly, if I was in this situation, I would also consider going into dust. But at the same time, with only 3 cards in hand, and it is dust, we are going into dust.
We're going into the big boy himself.
This is a play that is banking it all right now because if dust does not work, then that means that the oh my, and that's a trigger.
And we do get the defensive off of the dust to pay off of the dust skill to deal 1 damage.
It is rough seas
didn't-
though, so that does mean it's only plus 5k, but still. Oh, and
There's the Allison, there's the multi-attack combo alongside the dust, leaving your opponent at only 1 power.
or 6,000 or what?
5,001.
Yeah, so effectively
Exactly, I was
6,000.
about to 5,001. Oh boy.
Going all the way, calling down the Heal Guardian as well to attack. This 10k is a real number, especially considering that Dust was able to reduce our opponent to 1 power.
I think Solomon is doing the thing we talked about a little while ago. You see your hand size, you know you can't G guard, you see what your guard potential is, and you're staring down a barrel of multi attack. This might be just one of those scenarios where you just got to bank on that heal.
And one big thing here is all the rear guards lose their abilities. So I'm pretty sure that also means that even if there were a way, because their grade is now 1, so they can't G guard. But also, yep, just take it.
And that is game. What a game to start off our top 8. Maxime Solom getting to grade 3 first and getting that effective Stoikeo over trigger, getting that heal and putting that damage disparity from 0 to 4. But Hakase, not one to back down to a fight, also gives the crackback with that offensive over trigger on their own side as well, with that restanding, like swapping into the other Vanguard. But Gamalgahead being able to give your Vanguard, whichever one it is, the 10k and a crit.
Mm-hmm.
They were looking at lethal on both sides. Like, what a game to start us off.
Mm-hmm.
My God. this was exactly the thing I was mentioning of both players ripping their overtriggers, but unfortunately for Solemn, Hakase's came at a better moment. Like, look at the game how it was. The second Solemn ripped that overtrigger, he put Hakase to 4 damage and himself at 0. You look at that counter board, say you see Solemn has the advantage because whatever Hakase turn does, he can take that the damages, he can guard some of the smaller attacks, he can go to lower damages, and then do his turn and still have enough to spare. But ripping that offensive overtrigger on Hakase's side now puts Solemn all the way up in damage. And no more buffer. Now you got one turn to prep. You got one turn to either try to kill your opponent or get enough of a hand size, get enough of a field presence, get enough of a drop zone presence in this case to just be ready to survive their turn. And it just that shy.
Mm-hmm. That's really what it comes down to. And because Hakase got Maxime to 4 damage on that first stride, that was actually able to make dust work too. So it's not just about the dust, it's also about setting up for the dust.
Timing. All
Exactly.
about timing.
And I think that's the beautiful thing about like Hakase and like WCC's Nightmare Doll is just it's a very beautiful engine in itself that not only has ways to strike ignite, but you also have ways of setting up dust through the use of that grade 1 Nightmare Doll Abigail. Grabbing any grade 3 from soul into hand again, boom, you've got dust view. If the timing is right and you have dust, you have just like what Hakase produced on that end board. Leslie alongside Alice, and all that open counterblast as well, 3 counterblasts, that's like 6 attacks coming from both Leslie and Alice. Alice going into Soul, popping out that Ginny, goes back to the Soul to pop out that Alice again. What a great way of like orchestrating at how this game was going to turn out in Hakase's favor.
Now, with that being said, Hagase managed to win, which means he is moving on. And I want to look at the bracket. I want to see who he will be fighting in the semifinals. And from what I can tell, it's going to be Royal Lover, which means Hakase has a very interesting path ahead of him, fighting against another Grand Blue.
Wait. Only one Grand Blue made it past top 8. Only one has made it to top 4.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, boy. Yeah,
Look.
you're right.
Royal Lover, because Suo beat Chalice and ZO beat Notorious Set. ZO's anti-Grand Blue build has actually come into fruition.
But now Zio is going up against Suo playing Regalia, and Regalia is a deck that actually brings out a very strong board, and not to mention with Angelica's skill to give your rear guards resist if they have that divine gauge as well. I wonder how Zio's techs will match up.
This is going to be very interesting to see because not to talk down to both clans, but Genesis and OTT have always shared this interesting dual identity where both clans kind of do a similar thing, but their own different ways. And it really will come down to, okay, who's going to have the better push? Will OTT be able to stack their deck, get the criticals, do what they want to do? Or are we going to see a Norn just bully the opponent? I will say, when I saw the bracket of Royal Lover and Hakase, I was a little bit in the mindset of, man, Hakase, if he manages to win semifinals, and depending on how the other quarterfinals went, he might be just staring down the barrel of a top 8 of nothing of Grand Blue opponents. But it seems like we talked about, one Grand Blue out of 4 manages to move on, and Royal Lover is now representing Grand Blue all by himself.
Indeed. So, and Hakase now has the experience of having played against Grand Blue in the first round, going against Grand Blue again in the next round. Hakase must be feeling good. And then just a small correction, Suo will be playing Regalia versus Zio's Shadow Paladin, not OTT. Yeah, so Shadow Paladin, we've got those anti-Grand Blue techs. Now, at the same time, if I remember correctly, Ogma and PBD Diablo should be able to provide the same amount of pressure against Regalia as it will against Grand Blue, because if you do manage to give your rear guards that resist against retire effects, you yourself are not.
Oh yes, it is only on their turn. So
it's on both turns.
Well, one of them only gives on your opponent's turn. One of them actually, from what I remember, Yggdrasil only gives it on your opponent's turn, which still allows for you to actually interfere with it on your turn.
But Angelica's on both turns. Yeah.
Yes,
You are
you're right.
correct. Now, while I would love to discuss more about it, we got to give the players and ourselves a little bit of a break to kind of recharge their batteries, get focused for the semifinals, and we'll be right back after this short break.
Now that Decklog is available, you can register your deck list for tournaments with ease. If you have not used Decklog before, no worries, we have a tutorial video. You can find both the links to Decklog and the tutorial in the description box. Now, due to the shenanigans from the last event, this time we will be introducing a new procedure into the tournament. We will be conducting spot checks by requesting a player in a room to show us that nobody is nearby to give them help, that there are no extra cards or suspicious items around. First, the players who will be checked are based on a highly scientific method employed by many entities and game designers all over the world. Hi Player 456, you have been chosen for a spot check through a fair and impartial system.
Oh, I've been selected? Okay. So first of all, this is my table, and as you can see, I'm playing Lyrical Monasterio. I love Lyrical Monasterio so much because the characters are so pretty and so cute. Okay, now I'll show you my room. So hi, this is the room that I usually play Vanguard in, and as you can see, there's no one else here but me.
Okay, good, thank you.
I'd like to show you Vanguard collection. I've been playing Vanguard ever since the first release, and I also have my showcase here. I have G series, V series, and Overdress.
Thank you
Not
for
only that, I
cooperating.
love Weiss Schwarz as well. I play Persona 5, and I have a lot of other collection over here, as you can see. Very nice, I know. Thank you.
Good to know we have such an enthusiastic fan. Anyway, there have not been any incidents where we found players cheating with external help, but we hope this extra layer of precaution will deter any attempts, as well as reassuring all participants. On a side note, please do not use your phone during the tournament. This has been a rule for physical tournaments all along, and it is not any different for online tournaments. Players caught using their phone during a match is considered an infraction. First infraction, you get a warning. Second infraction, you get disqualified.
We meet again.
Yes, but this time, it will be a different fight.
Oh! Guard! Over, Toriga! Please don't heal, please don't heal, please don't heal!
And the championship goes to Chris! Okay, yeah, that was a good fight. Thank you for the game.
That match was so close. Thank you so much for the game.
And we are back again. What an exciting way to start off the top 8, with both players getting their overtriggers on their offensive. So we get to see the full extent of what each deck's overtrigger did. Next up, we have Zo versus Suo.
That's going to be a very interesting match. Again, my apologies, not OTT. Shadow Paladin versus Genesis. So, who of the United Sanctuary, but Cater Sanctuary decks is going to be coming out on top on this one? I am very excited to see. And we talked about it before, how Shadow Paladin has the potential stride line to manage Grand Blue. Mm-hmm. And with one Grand Blue left in the tournament, we're not going to see that. So, how would that stride line now translate facing against Genesis? Is it as effective, you guys think, or is it a change of game plan necessary?
Probably going back to like the standard Shadow Paladin game plan of going into more Festa with that ritual count. But let's quickly review the decks one more time before we get into the second match.
That's surprising. And here we go. Here's the decks.
This is the exact stride line I was talking about. You see those deck options to manage for Grand Blue that we predicted, but like you said, Morfessa is probably going to be the key card here. Keep that pressure on your opponent. Try to get the Ritual 10 as fast as you can, and then just swing at with double critical 15k, potentially 4 attacks in your turn. I do potentially even see the inclusion of Dragabus Luard here, just being able to pop some of the pesky rear guards on Genesis' side.
And one thing also worth considering here, the fact that even though, so he is running Chain Ranker, but not really anything to copy. So it's more probably likely used for that GB3, the one that makes it so that the opponent has to guard with 3 or more at once. And that's big because you can actually then, with that 3 or more at once, if you see your opponent has less than 12 cards in your hand and you have a Dagda in hand, you could just, and your opponent's at 5, you could just go Chain Ranker, hope for the GB3 to be good enough, and just go for 4 attacks that all need 3 or more.
And then once again, I do want to point out the Drag Anger Ogma. As I said just before we got into the break, because the grade 3 Angelica is able to give your rear guards with Divine Gauges the effect that they cannot be targeted by your opponent's effects, because you can't retire them, you are forced to actually discard 5 off of Drag Anger Ogma's skill instead.
Ooh, you are correct. And that same aspect does come into play with Diablo.
So we're starting to see these cute tech choices that ZO brought in come to fruition.
But
Once
I do
again,
want to see the other deck, So's deck. Like we've seen more enough of this Shadow Paladin. We know what it's about. We've talked about it more enough already. I just want to real quick do some little bit more highlights on So's side, the other deck list, and kind of see what pieces you need to try to protect, what pieces are meant for offense, and how your game plan is going to look like facing down a Shadow Paladin. Because you got to think, for So, he's sitting across, he's going to see those key pieces like Blast of Dark, like the Dragon. You're going to see those necessary pieces that Luard runs. But are you going to be prepared seeing a Ogma hit the board? Are you going to be prepared seeing a Diablo hit the board?
for sure, and I think that's one of the things that Suo will probably have to switch up about the game plan. Maybe instead of divine gauging everything to give them all that extra 5k on the defensive as well as the resist ability, maybe we have to give the divine gauge and quickly detach it for skills.
Hey, Peter, what do you think? What's the game plan here for Genesis?
Yeah, against... definitely don't want to keep the resist on the opponent's turn, because Shadow Paladin, really the only time you care about, or the only time you really care about retiring is, can your opponent retire things on their board so that you can get those, those guard restricts, or just discarding cards from hand. It's really, it's a weird time where not having resist is actually good.
You're not wrong, but before we go into the game, I want to just quickly point out at the G zone. We know, we've seen it. We know what the game plan is. It's that Minerva right there. Maybe change it up. Who knows?
Maybe change it up, yeah, just like you said, who knows? But that's enough from us. All we do is talk the talk. Let's go watch the game and let the two players, ZO and Suo, walk the walk.
I like what you did there.
Yeah, that was a good one. And they're raring to go. I love the blackout sleeves that Suo has.
Oh, they're so clean. They're so clean. But also, ZO on the left, repping the OG Gabriel sleeves as well.
Mm-hmm.
And he's playing all the wrong clans. He is really putting his opponent for a loop until the starting Vanguard is flipped.
So it looks like ZO will start the game off, riding into the Charon. And do we have the domain to guarantee the next ride? Don't see it come down.
See, this is a thing that I'm not sure of. We as the commentators, we've reviewed the decks. We know what the matchup is. We know what the potential strides are, what the potential game plans could be. But do the players, you're sitting across a player. Now, unless you've seen their deck list or done the research somehow or found it out through other means, you don't know what kind of what you're expecting. You see a Sharon there, you could still think it's Claret Sword.
Oh my! Wait, this was This was actually kind of big here because Suo was on a 7,000 power Vanguard. So that was one to pass, and he hit a crit.
Wow. Let's
But
go.
luckily, Zio did hit a heal, so we're not going to 2 damage that fast.
And it looks like ZO is able to ride into the singleton copy of Blaster Dark, ditching the knees to gain that extra drive check there.
I
Let's
love this play.
see. Yeah.
It's a very simple play of getting twin drive and starting ritual.
Oh, we're gonna call down the Morfessa early here. Perhaps having a unit to give a crit to if we do happen to get them, just so that way we don't push our opponent to too high of a damage point. And just like as I said, we do get that one crit trigger, and we're opting to actually just give it to that Morfessa in the back.
We're seeing high caliber players here. They know they just can't willy nilly give their opponent damages. They got to be very careful and meticulous. Control the tempo. Like like personally, it's swing damage, damage, damage. But that's the difference between a casual player and someone who's in top 8 right now.
All right, yep. And Suo once again rides into the Norn as their grade 2 Vanguard. And are doing a similar play as we saw last night, calling down that Thrud to get that Divine Gauge. And also, if we have that other Thrud, it will be an exact mirror as what we saw last time. But using Norn skill here to draw one, as well as Divine Gauging the Thrud, we'll go ahead and finish resolving the skill and hopefully getting that Soul Charge too as well. Definitely don't want to forget that Soul Charge too, because we need that Soul, and we need that Soul quick.
And unfortunately, it is a mandatory effect. It's not one of those things you can just skip over and decide not to pay or not to do.
Then we do get that Soul Charge too. We were considering calling down that Regalia crit. Kukuri Hime has the ability to go into Soul if we have a grade 3 or greater Vanguard. Then we can give one of our units 3k.
I think I see why we're calling another unit. I was kind of predicting that just because we have Norn, we have Third, and once Third does her ability, we to gain maximum efficiency in our resources, moving that gauge probably to the critical to keep a gauge on the board.
And
Exactly.
not only that, we're seeing a heal too. So this is giving a lot of momentum or at least, even though Zo did guard both of the attacks, Suo is actually able to, keep a lead. And that's pretty big because that's burning cards from hand for Zo, but that means that Suo can just afford to keep more in hand and wait for going for a first stride. But one of the things about Shadow Paladin is this is a deck that can actually afford to grade 2 game if you want to. So you can sort of play this game of chicken if you want.
You're not wrong, but honestly, personally, I would not play a game of chicken with Regalia because they can grade 3 game better.
But
Speaking of that grade 2 game, that's what we see here over on Zo's end of things. And into the damage zone is one of our copies of Yggdrasil there. Definitely not something you want to see in the damage zone. Definitely want to keep those pieces close to your chest there. And Suo might opt to ride up here.
Yeah, especially because Genesis does have a stride that can actually afford to go for, like, you can actually stride when your opponent's on grade 2. So it might be worth it just to go for that here.
And let's see if that is what the play Suo goes for. We do have that one counter blast needed for Marduk. Do we have the soul? Do we have the divine gauges required to get that restanding Vanguard so we can stride into Marduk on our second swing? Opting to once again not ride up. We're going to call down the Flap Angel, I believe, to show off another copy of a grade 3 Regalia to search for that Yggdrasil and add it to her hand before that second one goes to damage as well, worst case scenario.
Man, Peter, I got to give you a big-ass apology because, yeah, this is a game of chicken.
Yep, it's a game of chicken. These two are going to fight for it right now.
They both want that first stride, and they're willing to go... They're willing to just beat each other down in grade 2, straight up raw monkey flip, get those yellow cards that we all love.
And it does look like, yep, just swing with the Vanguard.
Yeah, but this is a one to pass. Like, this is 10. Oh, it is 10k. Never mind.
Yeah,
Ignore
10k
me.
to 10k.
We've got both Force Marker clans here repping each other off of their 10k base and actually choosing to discard a Dagda to guard there. Hopefully that telegraphs if we do have a second copy of Dagda for our big Morfessa turn. Will we stay at grade 2 for the second? And we do! Going ahead and just swing at the rearguard with the Blaster Dark there. And we get the over trigger, unfortunately wasted on that rearguard swing. And no other rearguards to also have to get those drive checks.
This also could be a scenario of, we don't have a Lure in hand because we are only playing 5 grade 3s, and G-assisting might just hurt more than staying on grade 2.
And once again, it looks like Suho was actually considering not even doing anything but to draw and swing.
All right, fellas, we're just going to be sitting here at grade 2. OG Vanguard in its best.
Oh. All right, where are the Ripple players at? I want to see some super grade 2 gaming. Where's that Aqua Force player with the spiritual body? Oh, and we do choose to ride.
Oh, okay. Okay, I'm probably going to Marduk here. Probably, especially because there's a Force 2 on the board. So, I mean, getting a triple drive with Force 2 when the opponent's at grade 2 definitely is high value.
The good thing is that last turn we did drive check that copy of VAR. This is the Regalia that can detach one of the divine gauges that it picks up to countercharge one and also soul charge. We actually have 2 copies of VAR here, actually. So off of our Yggdrasil there, I believe that we will use it to find our copy of Norn. There's a Norn. Then we're going to go ahead and divine gauge the two VARs. Possibly use the VAR skill to get Soul Charge 3 countercharge. Going into battle phase, this might be enough resources that we get the second Vanguard swing to stride into the Marduk. Let's take a look at what happens here. Those are the 2 divine gauges, as I said, both to the VAR there.
Getting that necessary countercharge option ready to go.
Yep. Retiring that VAR, getting that countercharge, soul charge 3. 1, 2, 3. Losing only 1 crit trigger in the process. Then we're going to go ahead and use Norn's skill there.
Are we?
Yep.
There we go.
Yep.
Going to pop that divine gauge onto Norn herself.
And they can countercharge again, right?
Yes, they can.
So
I don't believe VAR is a hard once per turn.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So this is very easily able to hit the requirement for Marduk.
Yeah.
I am seeing one thing already. It's kind of like a see into the future, and we're soul charging a lot. Like a lot. Which means our deck is slowly going down, and Suo might be putting himself in a similar situation we saw in round 8.
But at the same time, if Suo is just able to tear at Zio's resources with this double Vanguard 2-drive, 3-drive attack, that might just be enough to close the game out before we get to that crucial deck out timing.
Yes. If everything goes according to plan, if Marduk does hit the board, if we have enough soul for it and all that, and Norn in the back row ready to boost and gauge, you're looking at a Vanguard swing with 3 drive checks and then a potential restanding Vanguard swing with another 2 drive checks.
Mm-hmm. And Suo also calls down the Mihikari Hime as well, which means that the Soul Blast 6 that we do off of Marduk is actually just reduced to a Soul Blast 3 now.
Resource management at its best.
Let's not forget that being on grade through this Angelica here, that 5k boost is making a huge difference to these numbers.
Oh, and that was no trigger. That's a Nevin, so that means that it's actually going to be here an additional draw, but also this is going to be a big play here, being able to get that double restand, that double attacking Vanguard with a crit.
Yeah, let's not forget, this is 28.
If there's a crit here, it's just game.
There's the crit. There's a crit. 3 damage.
They need a heal. They need a heal right now.
Something?
If Zio does not hit a heal,
2, 3, and that's game.
That's game. Wow.
That's game.
Wow.
I think I see a Luard in hand.
Yep, Suo just speed ran that entire game there, just going, okay,
Huh.
let me quickly end this for you guys. Let me get to that Grand Blue or that Pale Moon real quick.
Zuo
Well
feeling
then.
sympathetic about that last game on the stream. Ooh, I took a bit too long. Let me go ahead and quickly speed things up for you guys today.
You're not wrong.
Yeah,
But
making this
that-
both our quickest and our longest games on this this entire stream are both from the same person.
Yeah.
I do feel a little bit bad just because never actually got to see a Luard hit Vanguard. We never actually saw any of these strides we mentioned, Ogma, Diablo. Like this game, this is Vanguard. It happens, but I feel cheated.
Yeah, and that's the risk you run when you grade 2 game your opponent, especially in like a deck like Regalia right now, which is effectively a V plus deck, right? So you have very strong V units in Angelica with the Yggdrasil and the Norn that you're able to do these kind of plays on your grade 3 turn. Like we saw what Zuo did. With that one counterblast, we were able to resolve not only the Yggdrasil, we were able to resolve the Norn, and going into the attack phase, going into the battle phase with that face-up counterblast, we were able to also resolve the Marduk if it ever got to that time.
Oh yeah.
But
we want to point out, like, the game of chicken, it was necessary because if we really start to think about it, if Luar managed to get to grade 3 first, what are you doing? You're a OG G-era Luard. You don't have any good Vanguard abilities. You don't have any special ways to make markers. Your whole gimmick is, oh, I can stride. And my strides, oh, they be good. But if you're going first and you hit that grade 3, you're looking at your opponent and you see, all right, now they're gonna hit grade 3. They're gonna probably go into the Minerva stride. Now they're gonna probably call a Norn. Now they're probably gonna have more Norns and all that. You see what Genesis did with just one CB.
Imagine what they do with 2.
In a very dire situation.
Yeah, exactly.
Ugh.
In any case, yeah, like definitely big credits to Zio for making it through that far. Like love the tech options of Dragma, Ogma, and the PBD to try and just completely stifle the strategy of Grand Blue. Unfortunately, we weren't able to see this happen against the Regalia, but still a very clean deck nonetheless.
yeah, and also one thing I'd love to mention right now, this is giving Suo a chance at that revenge against Royal Lover. If Royal Lover makes it through this round right now, then it's going to be a repeat of the end of Swiss.
You're right. Oh,
You're right. Oh, let's see if we get that run back. And so
I would love to see that match because it's gonna be one of those things like matches like that where you face your opponent in one of the rounds and then you face them again in top 8 is very fun to watch for me just because both players have seen the ammunition the other one holds. And now the cogs really start turning. Now it's like, okay, this is what I did last time and it cost me the game. Let me change my strategy. And on the other side, this is what I did last time and I won the game. I gotta be prepared for my opponent to change strategies.
for sure, exactly. Let's talk about Royal Lover as well. So in this round that we didn't get to watch at this time around, Royal Lover went up against Hakase. Royal Lover once again representing Grand Blue, and Hakase once again walking into that Grand Blue matchup. What do you guys have any thoughts on that one?
It'll be interesting to see because Royal Lover does have a bit closer to like a more traditional Grand Blue list. Maxime, obviously, he grinds a lot, he tests a lot, so he's got a lot of those really creative deck ideas that are like, oh, no one else has thought of this except for me for all of this. Meanwhile, Royal Lover going, okay, I'm going to go with what works, what I know works. I'm going to just go for that consistency on that early game. No 2-ofs. It's just either 4-ofs or 1-ofs pretty much. And that's definitely a different approach.
I do want to kind of a little bit come back to the Suo versus Zio match because I just thought about it. The whole chicken game. Do you think if we went to grade 3 sooner on Genesis, we would have gotten the same outcome? I know it's triggers and Top deck would have changed. The way cards got soul charge would have changed. So not the same triggers would have probably get hit. Maybe the game would have gone longer. But do you think staying on grade 2 for one turn longer really made the difference? Or do you think just going into grade 3 and doing the turn we saw could have been done a turn early?
I think being able to gather that one extra card in hand by staying on Norn that one more turn to get that extra drive check, that because the card that was drove check was that extra VAR. That extra VAR was able to give us that extra counter charge to resolve both Yggdrasil and Norn, and also give us that extra counter charge so that we could go into Marduk in the battle phase. So
See, you're not wrong, but you can't know these things. You can't just say, yes, I'm gonna stay on grade 2 because I'm gonna draw this card. It did turn out really good, but how do you know? You can't really know this. So it is one of those things like, do I stay? Do I go? Do I just stand up and leave?
rather than stay on grade 2 because I know that I have this, maybe the mindset was I'm gonna stay on grade 2 because I'm not ready to go in grade 3 and completely blast my opponent out of the game. Because if you know what your opponent's deck looks like, just like you said, Zeo was forced into grade 2 gaming because their grade 3 ride is sub vanilla when compared to like these V premium grade 3 targets that a lot of people are riding into at the moment. If you know that your opponent is forced into the grade 2 game, you can match them until you're ready to go up to grade 3 because your grade 3 ride will always be stronger than their grade 3 ride.
I think that's one of the reasons we probably saw that much representation of Kagero. A lot of people thought, hey, Draconic Overlord, by the time I get to grade 3, I can probably put you to 6.
Yeah. I mean, that's sort of like two different approaches of like, playing the long game, going, I can just end it now. Especially because Suo still had options there. Like if he did not hit a crit there, he could have just gone for the Marduk for the other attack and it completely undone, instead of having -1 drive actually getting +1 drive because you're striding.
And let's not forget, we still had that Yggdrasil with the booster in the back as well. So alongside Angelica's +5k boost, like these are really strong rear guards coming at your grade 2 Vanguard with the threat of 5 drive checks on that turn. Like it was just Suo just waiting to hit critical mass of gathering pieces so that he could just completely blow out the opponent.
Man, it's just this is one of the parts of Vanguard that I honestly do enjoy, the highs and lows. We go from a game where 2 overtriggers get hit to a game where one opponent unfortunately just doesn't get the grade 3. And speaking of matchups, I want to see if we're getting that rematch we talked about, or if Suo is fighting Hakase. So let's look at the bracket. Let's see what happened.
Oh, revenge denied. Revenge denied.
Man, out of half of the top 8 being Grand Blue, not one, unfortunately, managed to windle their way all the way to the finals.
So in the finals, we will be seeing Hakase representing WCC and the Pale Moon Brew versus Suo and the Regalia premium deck that I love so much. What are your guys' predictions on this before we get into the match?
You got a multi-attack versus a no, not as much of a multi-attack, but I want to do say how do I explain this? I got it in my head. How do I get it on mic? So, you're looking at Pale Moon. Attack after attack after attack, 2 Vanguard swings, rear guards doing shenanigans, coming in soul, coming out of soul, a proper multi-attack deck. And while Genesis Regalia especially has that multi-attack, it's not going to hit the same number of attacks as Pale Moon can, but it's substituting that with Force 2 markers. That's just how I always thought about Vanguard. Multi-attack, 3 attacks is the same as 1 attack with triple critical. It's just the difference of I have to guard 3 of them in regards I have to only guard 1. So that's what we're seeing here. We're getting multiple attacks with double critical base versus multiple attacks with one crit base. Now, again, if we see the overtrigger, that changes. But you can't really account for the overtrigger in the base game strategy.
Yeah. Peter, your thoughts, please?
Yeah, I think this will be an interesting matchup, especially because Genesis has that double critical Vanguard. It could end up with a situation where Suo gives Hakase more damage, which does let Hakase actually get those extra attacks in, because the more damage Nightmare Dolls have, the more attacks they have. It like directly scales and it directly converts. So Hakase can take advantage of Suo's game plan if Suo is not careful.
I do want to point out, hello? Yeah, I do want to point out you just mentioned something that I remember talking about yesterday, and that is whenever we looked at Spike Butters and Living Proof, if we can get to that Force 2 marker, if we can get to a second Force 2 marker, that's about, I want to say 4, maybe 5 attacks that Hakase can actually take before they lose. More like around the range of 4. Like 4 hits ends the game, while on the other side, Hakase needs to deal about 6 hits, triggers up and down. Like Force 2 markers really change that mentality.
Yes.
I think a lot of what this matchup comes down to is who manages to go first. Like we saw in both players' decks, they both have an incredibly strong grade 3 strategy. We saw Suo's grade 3 strategy just now, being able to present a very strong board with a lot of 5k buffs to the rear guards, but also having the ability to stride into Marduk. So it's a deck that's like able to stride proactively without needing your opponent to be on grade 3. On the other hand of this coin, we have Hakase's Nightmare Doll list, which features the ride down strategy to deny your opponent's stride. So we have 2 different faces of the same coin. One that looks to stride regardless of what your opponent does, and one that looks to stop your opponent from striding. And I think what a cool narrative to bring into the finals of this premium tournament for Bushiroad Rumble Online 2021.
Yeah.
Agreed. With that being said, you guys ready for a little bit of a break for the big showdown?
Yeah, let's take a small break, and then we're going to be ready to bring you guys the finals of #BRO 2021.
Now that Decklog is available, you can register your deck list for tournaments with ease. If you have not used Decklog before, no worries, we have a tutorial video. You can find both the links to Decklog and the tutorial in the description box. Now, due to the shenanigans from the last event, this time we will be introducing a new procedure into the tournament. We will be conducting spot checks by requesting a player in a room to show us that nobody is nearby to give them help, that there are no extra cards or suspicious items around. First, the players who will be checked are based on a highly scientific method employed by many entities and game designers all over the world. Hi Player 456, you have been chosen for a spot check through a fair and impartial system.
Oh, I've been selected? Okay. So first of all, this is my table, and as you can see, I'm playing Lyrical Monastero. I love Lyrical Monastero so much because the characters are so pretty and so cute. Okay, now I'll show you my room. So hi, this is the room that I usually play Venga in, and as you can see, there's no one else here but me.
Okay, good, thank you.
I'd like to show you Vanguard collection. I've been playing Vanguard ever since the first release, and I also have my showcase here. I have G series, V series, and Overdress.
Thank you
Not
for
only that, I
cooperating.
love Weiss Schwarz as well. I play Persona 5, and I have a lot of other collection over here, as you can see. Very nice, I know. Thank you.
Good to know we have such an enthusiastic fan. Anyway, there have not been any incidents where we found players cheating with external help, but we hope this extra layer of precaution will deter any attempts, as well as reassuring all participants. On a side note, please do not use your phone during the tournament. This has been a rule for physical tournaments all along, and it is not any different for online tournaments. Players caught using their phone during a match is considered an infraction. First infraction, you get a warning. Second infraction, you get disqualified.
We meet again.
Yes, but this time it will be a different fight.
Oh! Guard! Over, Toriga! Please don't heal, please don't heal, please don't heal!
And the championship goes to Chris! Whew, okay, yeah, that was a good fight. Thank you for the game.
That match was so close. Thank you so much for the game as well.
So Judge, when will this game be uploaded to the official Bushiroad YouTube channel? I want to show my friends like the epic fight I just had with Chris.
Oh yeah, I want to show my friends too.
Because one of you used a playmat with a yellow rat and a blue turtle.
Actually, it's closer to a tortoise than a turtle.
As we can't show merchandise that isn't from Bushiroad, we can't upload the match. During our last tournament, there were a number of exciting matches that we think players would love to watch. However, because unofficial merchandise were used, we couldn't upload the videos. Non-official Bushiroad merchandise are not allowed in tournaments. This includes card sleeves, playmats, and any other objects appearing in your video. Dragon Shield and Ultra Pro generic sleeves with no art are allowed. If you do not have an official Bushiroad playmat, you can buy one at our Bushiroad online store. You can find the link in the description box below. We have a lot of beautiful card sleeves and deck boxes, all of which are allowed in the tournament. And from now till December 10th, if you use my code, you'll get 5% discount, 5, for all TCG related products. Use the code BROTHER2021. That's brother, not brother. BROTER 2021. While stocks last. Okay, fine. You can also flip over your playmat and play on it.
Hi everyone! So in order to distinguish between offline and online tournaments, we have rebranded it to Bushiroad Rumble Online, BRO or BRO for short.
That's right, if this is your first time participating, we've created a video with some rules and do's and don'ts to take note of.
We've also included...
And we are back once again, ready to get into the finals of the NALA Bushiroad Rumble 2021 Premium Tournament. Are you guys excited?
I am so excited.
I'm pumped.
I'm pumped as well. So once again, let's just quickly review what the decks our players will be bringing to us today.
That's what the players will be getting, but this is what the players will be bringing. And first up for decks, we've got...
Well, just a quick reminder, it will be Hakase versus Suo. We do know that Hakase is on the Pale Blue Nightmare Dolls deck and Suo on the Regalia.
And I mean, they're fighting for this right now. They're fighting for those prizes, but there's Hakase's deck right now, that Nightmare Dolls. You know it, you love it. You've seen it already today. And I mean, it's pretty strong.
Pretty strong. Just like we said, we've got that right denial strategy. We've got that easy dust setup. This deck has it all. Quickly look at the G-Zone here. Remind yourselves of some key important pieces. That Mega Trick pair in Yvette and Dark Lord Princess. But definitely big props to Dust for that great showing in round 1.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, that was a very good play. We could have seen another stride into another stride, multi-attack from the Vanguard, do all those combos, but Dust was that insurance. Put your opponent at 1, not 1,000, 1 power. Deal them an extra damage, take them for 4 to 5, so they're in kill range. And on top of that, because they're at grade 1, that's preventing G-Guardians. We talked about the whole game how, hey, Solemn can just take out a Hanali, get it on board, but if Dust said no. So maybe we're going to see another Dust in this exact game again, just putting your Regalia at 1 power.
Yeah. And I mean, also, one thing, just a quick thing to put in. This is a WCC finals. WCC has invaded and they have conquered.
All right, let's take a look at the other list here.
The other WCC deck.
So we've got Suo here, representing once again Genesis in the premium format, representing the country of Vietnam. Can I get a Duma gang in chat?
Very nice. Now, we saw in round 1 2 over triggers, and I don't know about the other rounds what they saw, but for some reason there's this little part of me that's feeling like the over trigger right now for Genesis is about to be ripped. I don't know what it is. It's like a weird gut feeling.
I think it's about time. I think it's time. We've seen overtriggers for the Dark States happen on the offensive. We've seen overtriggers for Stoicheia happen on the defensive. I think it's time for Suo to show us the power of a Martinoa on the first Minerva swing to give us some awesome just drive checks across the board. Let's go ahead and give you guys a quick reminder of the Regalia G-Zone there. Once again, showing off the main stride of the deck in Minerva. But enough from us.
Can't sleep on Marduk. Can't sleep on the, hey, you're still a grade 2. Let me just quickly stride.
Yeah.
Definitely cannot sleep on Marduk. But yeah, once again, that's enough from us. I'm ready for the finals. Are you ready for the finals?
I'm ready for a final.
Let's do it.
Let's go watch the finals. And let's rumble.
One thing
on
I
the
wanna
left
point out-
here. Yeah, go ahead, point out.
No. Go for it. You got
All
this.
right. On the left, we have WCC Hakase representing Pale Moon with the Nightmare Dolls deck. And on the right, am I correct in saying this is also WCC Suo representing Premium Genesis with Regalias?
Yes, and
Now-
apparently Hakase is Mark, which is not as exciting to say.
There we go.
No, Hakase will be known as Mark. Hakase will be Hakase for the purpose of this stream.
Yes.
Now, the thing I did want to point out is the actual fact they're both from WCC. Now, they might be one from Australia and one from Vietnam, but we see just through this tournament, remote fight is a thing. So my question is, how much of these two players actually play tested against each other with these decks even? Is this something like, we've done this 100 times, kind of understand each other's play style, what the decks are capable of. So are we really going to just see counterplays of the wazoo immediately?
I mean,
I
very
hope that's what we see. That would be like the upper echelon of premium gameplay would be to see counterplay out the wazoo, just like you said. I do want to point out that the player to go first and will get to grade 3 first is Hakase on the Pale Moon. We will finally get to see that Stride Denial game plan come to fruition here.
And I mean, also, one thing to consider, that means that we don't have to worry about Marduk on Suo's side, because that means Hakase can just ride up to grade 3, and that does mean that it will be a Minerva first stride, but I mean, I think a Minerva first stride is far less threatening than being on grade 2 and your opponent is already striding.
It's not a fun feeling, I'll tell you that.
Yeah, for sure.
That's very true, but let's not forget that the big strategy of the Nightmare Dolls is you're able to stride deny. So, A, Hakase gets to stride deny, but B, if Suo does have the pieces in hand to get that big Marduk turn, that might happen as well, and we just get to see, like I said, both sides of the same coin. Are opting to choose to hit Suo to that 1 damage, what will we do with that 1 counterblast?
See, right now we're looking at a very normal game, I want to say. But you never know if these players are just going to put down cards and go and swing, and it doesn't hit. Okay, cool. You stay at 1 damage. And swing. It doesn't hit. Okay, cool. You stay at 1 damage.
And just like last time, we see the Norn come out. We see the Flap Angel. We see the dig for that copy of Yggdrasil, because we do need that on the rear guard there.
That's just a fixer. That's like a staple fixer of, I have 1 piece, go get the other.
Go ahead and put that quick shield back in that extra zone.
Yep, don't need it.
Quick shields have been a very interesting addition to the game, because 5k guard extra is not bad, but I've seen multiple decks that do run quick shields in the sense of starters that can produce them. Just use them for ditch fodder, and this ditch fodder in particular was very useful.
And Suo once again going to that bread and butter grade 2 turn. Using that Norn skill, calling down that Thrud for that Divine Gauge, we'll have 2 attacks now, and also the Thrud being able to move that Divine Gauge afterwards, but also to draw a card back. But Hakase brings out that Nightmare Doll Lindy to give us the 10k defensive there.
This is a very
Fact that-
interesting turn. Go for it, Peter.
The fact that the Heal Guardian for... Oh, wait, no, that's not the Heal Guardian. Is it? Wait, no.
It is the Heal Guardian.
Oh, yes, you're right. The Heal Guardian is actually a Nightmare Doll. The fact that it's actually part of an archetype is huge because, like, very few of the Heal Guardians are, part of their clan's archetypes.
Man, the stars just aligned for that one.
Yeah.
I do want to point out where we see some interesting different play styles in the sense of we saw a solemn fight against Hakase and keep to not giving them as much damage. But Suo was doing the actually complete opposite. He's putting on the pressure, and Hakase had to use one of the Heal Guardians to stop it.
Mm-hmm.
It's like he's not fearing giving his opponent more CB to work with.
Well, that is because the strategy of Suo, right? We're looking to slam down that force too. The closer you can get your opponent to 6, the quicker you can just end the game.
Yes, because even though the format has slowed down, there are still decks like this that just want to end it as quickly as possible because they don't want to play the grand game. I mean, they can, but they don't want to because, they run through their deck so quickly.
So Hakase does opt to ride up into Carol here, and just looking for a Workroy to put into Soul. We were considering the Alice, but we're going to do some more deliberation there. I predict to see that Stride did now game plan at this point.
And another thing to consider here, it was a good play from Hakase to actually use the Heal Guardian now because the moment you ride up to grade 3, you no longer have access to Heal Guardians, even if you ride back down to 2, because it specifically says if you have not been at grade 3 or greater this game.
Exactly.
Like we talked about before when we were reviewing the deck, Rollock the Krail Elemental, correct?
Yeah, Rollock.
Thank you. That name will confuse me to the end of my days. But we've seen why the deck runs it because we can use Heal Guardians in the early game, like these moments, and then whenever the deck rides down to grade 2 for whatever reason, we have now Rollock to save us because we can't use those same Heal Guardians anymore.
Exactly. Now, I do want to mention that early on in the game, Hakase was able to put the Comicality Chimera into Soul through an effect. Now that we know that this is into Soul, we know that we have a method of countercharging during the battle phase, which means that we still have that one counterblast face up. We can use Alice. We can also then use Carol's skill to get that ride down that I do preach so much about this deck. And it looks like a Rollock was picked up off of Nightmare Doll Marissa's skill.
I just realized we're looking at 2 decks that can do so much with a lot of CB, but don't have to because they have so many ways to combo to Toolbox and can just work with one of them. We've seen the previous game watching Suo work with 1 CB, getting like 3 costs off using the counter charger. And like you just said with that Chimera, it's the same thing here. We have access to where we can still do a lot with just 1 CB.
Just going to see what Hakase is planning to do now. We've got our board set up. We've got our Marissa on that extra circle. We've got our Alice on the side. I think we're just going to start going into attack soon.
Yeah, this is like, even though they only have 1 face-up damage, this is still, you can do some things here.
We're just gonna mull on what to do at the moment. Now, what is Suo's counterplay to this? It looks like we've actually opted to call 1 more card down to use as a booster for the Alice. And we'll swing first with the Carol here.
The only counterplay that I can honestly think of, and I need to check the deck list real quick, is throwing down a Heal Guardian that we do not run.
Oh, and off the drive checks, we do get a Rollock. That is very reassuring for Hakase. And then another Norn into the damage. Let's not forget that we have a Norn in Soul, but we also Soul Charge an extra copy of Norn. So that's 3 Norns accounted for. We have one more that we need for our plays.
Yeah, and
This-
if that fourth Norn disappears, then that's not good for Suo because that pretty much shuts down their main game plan.
Agreed. And on top of that, you got to think this is a Genesis deck, but it's not Fenrir. You can't really get those cards out of Soul that easily.
Yeah.
Okay, this is Alex's attack, just pondering on what to do. And I would assume that after Alex's attack, we'll go ahead and use the skill to counterblast 1, Soul Blast 1, pop herself into Soul, and pop something else out.
Man, Alice has always actually been such an amazing card. I'm talking about OG Alice, the Nightmare Doll shenanigans, the Warcoroy shenanigans she used to do. I'm talking about this specific Vieira Alice, what she's brought to her own deck, what she's brought to this deck, what she's even brought in Vieira to Hari. It's just such a good card, and it's showing its age. And I don't think we're gonna see Alice leave the game anytime soon.
No, a card like Alice has withstood the test of time.
Mm-hmm.
Now, off of Alice's skill, what will we call? Obviously, we can't call the Chimera because it is a grade 3, but maybe there's something that we can chain into the Chimera so that way we're able to get that counter charge. Opting to go into another copy of Marissa here. With the boost. Oh, and that grade 1 we see in the back is Abigail. That Abigail will be able to get us that counter charge that we need. However, I don't believe that we'll be able to get this ride down strategy that we've been hoping for. So through Abigail's skill, yeah, we'll go ahead and pick up another copy of Alice back to our hand.
Whew.
The toolbox, the into Soul, into on the field, back into Soul, goes to hand. Like it's amazing how things can go with this deck.
Ooh, actually
And I
going to pick up a
like
copy of Carol.
Maybe getting ready for striding. And actually, because they did not ride down, that does mean that they might be setting up for a dust play later.
Oh, just an instant
Dust
dust. Now,
is-
yeah.
You're not wrong. Dust is GB2 still, in the sense of actual physical cards there.
But they might have 2 heals in hand. If they have 2 heals in hand, then this could just be first stride dust, which would be very exciting. I will scream if there's a first stride dust.
Like even if it's dust, like we can't forget that Hakase does run the Progenitor Dragon of Dark States in Formido.
Yes.
A very good way to clear the board as well. Like we already know that Suo is down to their last copy of Norn. If that Norn was to disappear through something like Formido, we just basically turn off Suo's game plan.
That's very true. And Suo is definitely has to be very careful here because of that. But didn't Suo just ride onto Angelica?
Yes.
So that does mean that Formido. Oh wait, no, Formido doesn't even target, right?
Formido does target, so that is a good way to counteract Formido.
Yes. So
but the moment, so we need to have that extra divine gauge on that Norn there to make sure that it doesn't get touched at all on our opponent's turn. That extra divine gauge on that Norn will be incredibly crucial for what Suo looks to do this game.
Now, Premium is one of those formats where, especially on a competitive level, especially on a top 8 level, the decks are very streamlined in their strategies of what they want to do. We're looking at a Pale Moon deck, Nightmare Doll, multi-attack, rewriting Vanguard, going down to grade 2, all the things we've talked about. And we're looking at a Genesis deck that wants to focus on that Norn, that Regalia play. Something I do want to bring up is the fact that, yes, Angelica is an amazing card. She protects your rearguard. She does a lot of things. But she also has one of the last abilities that I don't think we're ever going to see Suo use, and that is getting rid of 5 gauges to heal 1 card.
I think it's just with the way that this deck aims to play, it's just a bit harder to get those 5 divine gauges, and those divine gauges always better used to boost your units, better used to detach and discard to restand your Vanguard, you're moving a lot of your units around, so those Divine Engages don't really stay as were normally, like when you look at the V Premium deck that uses stuff like Artemis, you will manage to get those Divine Engages for your rearguards.
However, there is one situation where you might actually end up using that ability, and that's if it goes to time and has turns. You could do that on the final turn of it if you're both at 5, send yourself back to 4 and win.
Win in time with that heal one. What a skill. Who knew that healing would be part of your win con? And I would not complain to see that because I think that'd be super interesting.
That'd be very funny.
I do like what I'm seeing right here. Using that critical trigger, go into soul, give something 3k, bumping that soul because I believe we're a little bit shy from our necessary cost for Minerva. Correct me if I'm wrong.
We should have more than enough, hopefully, like throughout the use of Norn. We've got the Thrud that popped itself into Soul. And then, unfortunately, because we aren't a GB3, we can't get the Minerva skill to restand, but we do have that 4 drive, 3 drive.
Yes.
Now, if there's ever a time for that Martin Noah to pop up, it is now.
But there's one more thing. Do you correct me? Actually, educate me. There's the word. Can or does Nightmare Doll have any form of removal?
On the defensive, I don't believe so.
Not even defensive.
Not this build. Oh, offensively, they have the Progenitor Dragon, but that can't choose anything with a Divine Gauge.
Exactly. However, look at the board. If we go up to use a Norn right now, she will lose that Divine Gauge. So
You're
she'll
right.
be susceptible. And we already know 2 Norn are in the drop zone because they went to Soul and they were just Soul Blasted and are now in the drop zone.
Yes, and we do know that Hakase has another copy of his Vanguard in his hand, so going for another Divine...
Oh, another PG. Okay.
You
Man, all right.
might just not use Norn here just so you can keep it for later.
And a critical trigger as well. Give him the crit to the Vanguard because I do believe it was a no guard there.
Yeah, that's going to be 3 damage instantly because there's a Force 2 marker under it.
Yes, sir. Just thinking about where to delegate the power because at this point, with that extra crit on the Vanguard, it is worth to restand. But just like you mentioned, if we do use that Norn skill and restand the Vanguard, that leaves Norn susceptible to removal.
Mm-hmm. And Formido is an option next turn for Hakase. So this is a very risky play if they decide to use Norn's skill.
I think we're seeing power put to the Yggdrasil on the rear guard, having another decent attacker after the Vanguard.
First damage. It is a defensive 10k trigger, giving that to our Vanguard there. Second damage will be another defensive trigger. Third damage.
The trigger.
Nope. Just chose. Oh. Okay. Yeah. Oh wow. What? Okay. So going. I don't need my Norn for later. And just
choosing
discard.
to use the Norn skill here, go ahead and restand the Minerva there. I guess the ideology is getting that extra 3 cards in hand is just too important against a multi-attack deck like Pale Moon.
Agreed. Now we do have to remember this is only 3 drive checks.
I love Suo's line of thinking here. You give the crit to the Yggdrasil because if you were to give your crit to the Minerva there, Hakase could be at 4 damage, which means your heal triggers would not be live, and you need as much damage buffer room going into your opponent's turn.
And not only that, because they gave all of the power to Yggdrasil, that means that if the opponent wants to, go for maybe a bit safer of a play, it is still risky because I don't think Minerva has any Oh no, Minerva does have enough to hit. Okay, so it'll be enough to hit because it's 37 to 32, or 38 to 32.
More because of the 10k from Norn.
Oh, you're right. So 48. So this is really risky because now also a single critical trigger. If they no guard, then it'll hit for 6 and it'll be able to hit to 6. Or if they do guard, then they can give it to Yggdrasil and push for game.
And that'll also hit for game as well. What a smart way to split your triggers to ensure that every attack going forward will be lethal.
Mm-hmm.
Looks like we're just getting a quick trigger count here. Like I said, gotta do the calculations. Once you're at the top tables, no mistakes allowed. You're playing for that extra copy of Brandwin. You're playing for that big title, first place of NALA.
Extra 2 copies of Brandwin because
Extra 2 copies.
And
This
maybe
is
there's
exactly
a
that.
WCC.
Bragging
player
rights.
maybe there's a
bragging rights.
WCC player who really likes Luard. They could just give them the 4 copies of Brandwin, because no matter what, WCC's getting 6 Brandwins in this tournament.
All right, and it looks like Hakase is going to G-Guard into Chainsaw Megatrick Furnival, using its skill to look at 3 cards from the top of the deck, to choose one of them and put it into the soul, and to stack the rest onto the bottom of the deck.
And that's still not enough for even a 1 to pass, because that's only... Oh no, that is enough for a 1 to pass right now.
Yeah, let's not forget we got that double defensive.
Yep.
But still, this is giving me flashbacks to that Solemn game we looked at. Giving your opponent a 2-pass option is just saying, how ballsy are you? If triggers are gonna get hit, are you just gonna outright win the game?
So we do see the intercept. We do see the 5k Leslie shield. So let me think here. 20k from the G-Guard plus an extra 10k from those 2 cards is 30k. Ooh, we do get another draw trigger. That is 3 draw triggers this turn. Suo might be reminiscent about that game from last night where we got all those draw triggers. We might deck out here.
Hey.
Yeah, deck out. Very realistic.
Hey, where's your deck? Oh, you mean my hand?
All to Vanguard.
Oh, choosing to go all in. Second, third, no second trigger.
You might just... I mean, you could just go for attack Vanguard right now. Just try and push to 5 and then just hope that 1 attack hits next turn.
Hope that 1 attack. Like, look at that brick in the hand.
Oh,
There's so many cards there. Like, with that many PGs as well, I think we'll be able to, like, defend against, like, the multiple attacks that we're looking at. Like, even if we go into something like the Progenitor?
Yeah, PGs are a little bit susceptible, though, because, yes, you have a card that says, I don't care what your power is, I'm going to guard it. But at the same time, every single PG is 2 less cards in hand. We saw 3 of them. That is potentially just saying, all right, these 6 cards, put them into my drop zone. I'm going to guard 3 of your attacks.
Oh, wait. Suo might not actually attack right now. Yep, just pass, because Nightmare Dolls, the more... We've said this so many times now. Nightmare Dolls, the more damage you have, that directly converts into more attacks. So this is limiting what Hakase can do with this turn.
So with that extra copy of Carol, it looks like Hakase is opting to rewrite for that extra Axel marker. Now, do we...
No Formido, which means that unless they discard another copy right now...
Going to go ahead and use Carol's skill to thin the deck a bit more. Trying to find a great... putting Ginny into the soul. So just setting up more of that Leslie, Ginny, Alice combo that we all know and love. Over on Suo's side, like, we got to point out that Norn back there without the Divine Gauge. If we do have a 3rd copy of Carol in hand, this might be the Vermito because of how important that Norn is to the Regalia strategy. And we do know where the other 3 are. It might be worth it to consider getting rid of it as soon as possible.
There is still the option of the generic, Mega Trick and just going for those multi-attacks.
Yeah, exactly as well. Let's not forget that going through like the Mega Tricks, Dark Lord Princess, and Yvette, we'll also get a 3rd soul, which might draw us into pieces we need to stave off Suo's next turn. And I did see something scary, and that was Hakase asking for a deck count check. So Hakase, knowing that Suo does not run Dreaming Dragon, might be looking to deck out. But we do see the Persona Stride not into the Progenitor, but going into that Mega Trick, just like you said, Philip.
And we know that Suo, from what I counted from what Suo did for the deck count, was 15 cards in deck. So there is a timer being placed right now on how long Suo can play, which means probably just one more stride, and then maybe have to just like risk it.
Yeah, I definitely need to pick up those heal triggers so you can go into the Laurier G guard. So at least fill up our deck with some cards, despite them just being normal units. Some card of decks back, some sort of cards back in deck.
You are correct. And on top of that, even if we do put cards back to the deck, they can be any normal units, and we do know that they're going to be on the bottom. But you have that Yggdrasil, if she still stays on the board, that can just counterblast one, even not search out any Nord in deck. Just go, oh, that's a way to get a Nord on board. G guard, put it back to deck, and the Yggdrasil it.
Very true, and maybe we might see that like this game, but it looks like Hakase is not opting to go into the Formido to remove that Norn. So that Norn will be staying there for another turn.
Yes, but what if a second Nord appears? Now you have 5 attacks, and if we can re-ride with another force marker, the potential and endless. And I don't think I've ever expected to see the Krail Elemental on the rear guard.
And if you're not grade 2, no need to hold it in hand. It can at least attack for 7k base. So
it's boosted. It's swinging for more.
Oh, it's swinging. Oh, and it's also boosted by Leslie. So this might be like having an infinite booster in Leslie, setting up that infinite booster in Leslie through the use of Alice and stuff, and hopefully having Alice to just swing many, many, many times.
And if Akase has another Leslie in Soul, then that could mean that also there's the potential for just getting the Leslie that just keeps attacking as well.
Exactly, yeah.
1 PG down on the 3 that we know Suo has. Oh, crit or heal?
That looks like a crit. Giving the crit and power to the Rollock there. No, the power to the Leslie. Crit. Oh, I like that. I like that. And the heal trigger as well. This heal trigger is live.
But that's not good for Hakase.
That is not good for Hakase. Yeah, we want that damage to play with.
Yeah, exactly what we've talked about, how Nightmare Dolls directly converts their damage into more attacks, and that's one less damage to convert into attacks.
This is something that reminded me of a conversation I had where, do you think that some decks can actually walk away with running no heals?
For sure, actually.
Yeah.
I remember this distinctly. I think it was Dark Irregulars. I think it was a Dark Irregulars deck that ran no heals. Or was it also 16 crit Regalia back in the early days of G as well?
The deck that comes to mind immediately in V era is no seal.
Yes. Yeah.
I know that Dark Irregulars can probably still afford to just run no heals because they don't really like, a lot of the time they're just planning on winning on turn 3.
Yeah.
And the faster you can win, the better it is.
Yeah, although they do also need heal guardians in some cases because their defense is non-existent before then.
Yes.
I do want to point out, like, that heal trigger was hard on Hakase in 2 ways. One, the way you just mentioned, going to 2 damage, not having 3 CB available or multi-attack. But there's a second part here, and that is that if we can see another ride from Suo, that is a 2 hits and you're dead.
Yeah. It makes like it puts you from 3 to 5, from 2 to 4 to 6 kind of deal. And that might be a big difference in this game here. But yeah, we'll go ahead and attack with the mid-air Megatrek Yvette there. Gonna get that extra Axel marker. And what are we going to call to it? Normally it will be the Leslie, but with only 2 counterblasts, it might not even be worth using all your resources on a turn that will definitely not end the game in your favor.
I think one part about Suo right here is also kind of trying to figure out which attacks to take, because currently no face-up CB. Yes, we know he has counter charges, but getting some extra CB, getting some extra damage is going to be nice. So how much do you guard? Which attacks do you take? We see 1 PG used. You save those PGs for later turns. Like, it's all about knowing when to use the not trying to waste too many resources.
And we do see that GR come out, and I wonder if it's going to be exactly just as you said, Philip, going into the Laurier to start putting those Norns back into the deck. Kind of protect the Yggdrasil a bit more, because Yggdrasil is our access to those Norns once they're back in the deck. And yeah, just like you said, Laurier. We're gonna go ahead and use Laurier's skill and put some copies of Norn back in their deck. I think we only put one.
They're putting 2.
Oh, they're putting 2 back. Okay.
I think I've stolen Mr. Timeleap's abilities to see the future.
Yeah, so boom, there's that Laurier, 25k shield.
Now, the thing I want to point out, we mentioned this is a WCC representation, and I got to give them 100 props. They are a team that deck tests so much that the things they produce, of course, they're going to be good. The amount of hours they spend on finding combos, testing cards out, optimizing, getting the right kind of numbers here and there, it all accumulates to exactly what we're seeing right now. Players coming in to the top brackets, playing for that grand finals. And it's just time and effort.
Exactly, just as you said. And this is the time and effort, just like showing itself off here. Like, there's like big kudos to the WCC team for being able to present this finals, WCC versus WCC. And that's just like you said, all that time and effort, all that practice, all that testing, all that discussion, it goes a long way. I'm going to go ahead and use the Regalia G-Guard here just to fill up our soul with a bunch of Regalias, just give us some feel for the Minerva turn next. And also through the use of the Regalia heal, we're able to get a counter charge as well. So we might be able to get away from this turn scot-free.
That is one thing that kind of showed up a little while ago. We saw Hakase put on a really good offensive first grade 3 turn while Suo was at grade 2. And a heal guardian would have helped in that situation, but Suo is not running any, and we see exactly why. The heal triggers currently in play are serving for this exact purpose, getting that counter charge needed for all those skills. And you really got to look at your deck and figure out, all right, what's more important to me, survivability or resource management?
And let's not forget as well, that heal trigger does have the benefit of having Regalia in its name.
Yes.
And in a deck like Regalia's, which you do have to Soul Blast Regalia names, this is min-maxing. Like you're opting to like not run those bigger heal triggers, but you're hoping that have that extra name, having the ability to counter charge when you G-Guard, having the ability to soul charge when you G-Guard, that might just be enough for you.
Exactly.
And also, another thing to note, not a single card has left Suo's deck this turn, so he should be at around 18 cards in deck.
If anything, 2 more cards were added.
Yeah, or 17 cards in deck then, and now 16, so this is looking pretty good for Suo. Definitely has a lot of potential here for not only preventing deck out, but also further allowing for more plays to be done in the future.
And here we go. This is where all that CB is starting to come into play.
Yeah, we're going to go ahead and use that Alice's skill in the rear guard after his attack, deciding on what to Soul Blast here. But I imagine because of that Ginny that we picked up a long time ago to put into Soul, that's the unit that comes out. So Alice into Soul, Ginny out, Ginny in, Alice out. I assume that is the combo line. Yeah, so we do see the Ginny. And obviously, Ginny's skill there. Oop, I stood to Leslie a bit too preemptively, but we do know that the Alice will pop out, so. Actually, no, Leslie is like when Alice is put into Soul, so perfect timing there. You do get the Alice there, and this is another 1, 2, 3 attacks, I believe.
And don't forget, that Leslie is sitting with extra 30k power.
Yeah, this is a big booster.
Is it 3 attacks? Because
let's see. Alice is gonna go into Soul.
Call the Ginny, Leslie stands, and then call Alice again.
So just 2 attacks, 2 more attacks.
Yeah. So, yeah, because this is the end of their counterblast for the turn. And this was why it was such a smart play from Suo to not give more damage.
Exactly. Otherwise, Suo might actually be looking at game there, like especially with Hakase getting that heal trigger on the offensive as well. But it does not look like we've opted to go into
Well, you don't really need
Guinea.
it, do you? Like, it's one of those things like, yes, you can call out an Alice again or whatever, but Alice is coming. You're not getting more multi-attack. You're not getting anything else out of it. Uh, why not go for something a little bit better? And what is that card that came out?
I love this. So what happens here is like we've actually chosen to call 2 Nightmare Doll Abigails, and both of them will resolve to not only countercharge us 2 going into our opponent's turn, but also for our next turn as well. Not only that, we're able to set up Ultimate Stride. We're able to pick up more Grade 3 rear guards if we need. So yeah, we're going to resolve the first Abigail there. Hopefully we do have another Carol still in soul, but we're going to pick up the Alice, put that into hand, and go ahead and countercharge and resolve the second Abigail.
Yeah, I would think definitely get another copy of Carol. Oh, just another Alice.
Going double Alice. All right, so it looks like Hakase wants to do like multiple Alice, multiple Leslies on the next turn there.
This is one of those things like we see right now. Hakase putting down their hand 1, 2, 3, 4. What was it? 9, 10 cards, something like that, along those lines. And putting 2 Alice a hand, that's 2, I want to say, dead cards that you really can't guard with. And we talked about this, 2 hits end the game. There's another force marker on the border right now. 1 critical trigger on the drive checks makes that other rear guard deadly. 2 hits is more than enough to end the game. So Hakase apparently might be very, very confident with their hand that they can just guard this turn and survive and have a next turn where they just push.
Okay, Suwo also has 3 open counterblasts, so we could have double Yggdrasil and Norn across the back here, looking to close the game off. We do have enough cards in decks that we can do the 4-3-0 swings with the Minerva there.
And not only that, we also have, because of Minerva being able to then restand every Regalia, that means that those Yggdrasils are going to be able to restand as well. And one of them has a force
If you
2.
can pay for the cost, it's not too far-fetched to put multiple gauges under multiple Norns if they're going to restand.
Yeah, because then that gives them the ability to boost multiple times as well. Like two gauges on these 2 Norns here means that you're able to boost twice. And that 10k does come up big in these certain matchups. Like we're just getting a count.
Suwo is still on a timer, like Peter mentioned. Like, if this turn is going to be strong, there's no doubt about it. We see 2 Norns on the board. There's definitely going to be 2 Divine Gauges going to the rear guards. Oh, I see a counter charger, so that's smart. But on top of that, if you can't finish out this turn, are you going to have enough hand? Are you going to have enough deck?
I think hand will not be an issue for sure, but just like you said, I think the big issue will be deck. Okay, let's take a look at these soul charges. Not losing any offensive triggers. Soul charging 3 Regalia names as well as the heal trigger. That heal trigger, like, I actually don't think that heal trigger is needed. 10 cards in deck
right now.
It's really scary because look at it this way.
This has you have to end it this turn.
Swings on Vanguard. You're getting what? 4 drive checks, then 3 drive checks, then I don't know what else. Do you
0
have
drive
enough
checks.
deck for all this?
We do have enough deck. This is Suo's last turn. This is the make or break it.
Yeah, because Suo has to end it this turn or else they'll be at 3 cards left in deck. And not only that, but they also have to, in addition, get the... Well, if they have a G-Guard in hand, they might be able to survive for another turn and do instead the... not even use the extra drive check. Just go for 3-0.
We just did. We just paid the cost for the extra drive check.
Yep.
Oh boy.
Yes.
Paid cost for extra drive check. Or what's important is that we actually played over that grade 1 for a Regalia name to restand.
I see what they're doing. I see what he's doing. I see it. He's trying to see if he can bait more cards out of hand, or if Hakase takes the damage, just 3 damage, 1 critical trigger ends the game on both swings. And we did say deck is going to be a problem, but if they do manage to survive, that's less damage available for their turn. This is overall like.
What I want to point out as well is that we surprisingly have not seen a lot of crit triggers move out of Suo's deck, so that because I remember a few, like 2 soul charges. We don't know what was drawn off, but like this deck might be filled to the brim with those yellow stars. So obviously got to guard the easy attack, because why take damage if you don't have to, especially in this situation here. But this is a big one. This is 48k, 4 drives, base 2 crit.
And not only
With a
that,
Norn in the back row.
if they check double crit here, then they could just give it all to Vanguard.
Yeah, because that's 2 more attacks that they're looking at. 4 damage, 4 damage. And like Hakase also, that last turn we picked up all the heal triggers as well. So there's very little way that we can actually defensively heal out of lethal.
That's
another
that's
draw? What?
I wonder if Sue is like, this is all calculated.
Ooh,
there's that
crit.
There's that crit. There's that crit.
And
where would you guys put this crit? There's a world where maybe you put the crit onto the one without the rear guard. I mean,
yes,
the one without
I would
the crit.
personally put it on Yggdrasil, because if they like, you didn't drive check 2 crits, you can't end the game here. But if they decide to take one of the hits, because they're gonna have to take 2 damage first and then swing for something that's gonna go over damage. Like if we put the crit on the Vanguard and they decide to let the Vanguard hit, yes, it's a gamble when critical will end the game. But at the same time, if that doesn't happen, that's 3 damage, 3 chances for defensive triggers.
When Suo just going, okay, I know that I won't be able to live next turn because I will probably deck out. So just instead going for a play just to discard the draw sentinel. No, wait, no, that wasn't the draw sentinel discarded.
Yeah,
That
just
was
a
crit
10k
trigger for
crit.
Norn.
Yeah.
So Norn showing her full merit, restanding that Minerva and losing the drive, gaining 10k, still a double critical. Did we ever see actually where he put the critical? Is this a 3 critical swinger right now, or is this just a 2?
I think we might have actually chosen to put it all into Vanguard, or at least the power and maybe the crit to the rear. Do you guys remember how many PGs we've gone through on Hakase's end of thing? We know that we just PG'd the first one.
I've seen 2, if my memory serves me correctly.
Hopefully we were able to pick up the other 2. There is the G guard, and hopefully maybe even if having a PG in Soul as well, being able to use that dragon that we see there.
But still, this is a 53,000 power Vanguard. Oh, wait, no, this is Yggdrasil attacking right now. So the Vanguard will be 53 on its own, which is very scary.
Right now is sitting at I believe a comfortable 33, and I see what they're doing, not using the Norn ability just yet.
Yeah. So now go ahead and pay cost for Minerva's skill, Soul Blast 6 on swing. Make sure they are all Regalia names. Discard that 1 card from hand. And we get the ability that our entire board, because we're all Regalia units here, will restand at the end of this battle. And they will lose -3 drive, getting us to that 0 drive on the Minerva for the last attack there. 1, 2, 3. No triggers.
Wow.
But that is going to be 3 damage going to Hakase, playing on that no guard, hoping for no trigger. We do get the defensive trigger as well.
No! And that makes it really hard.
Oh no!
That's
Suo has
that is effectively the turn for Suo.
Suo has like 1 to 2 cards left in deck right now.
That defensive overtrigger, even after restanding the board, nothing will hit, because we did see Suo did use the overtrigger to guard one of Hakase's attacks last turn.
This is just past turn. This is just what happens. Overtriggers have been included in the game, and the amount of power they give can end almost any turn.
Wow.
Hey. Over to Hakase's turn now. We only see 3 cards left in Suo's deck. We know that we don't have the Laurier to G-Guard and put normal units back to the deck as well. The ball is in Hakase's court. Let's see what the play will be. 3 axle markers, a nice grip. Still many options in the G-Zone as well. Now, mind you, we didn't pick up a copy of Carol for any kind of ultimate strides, but we do have one regardless. Oh. Going for a re-ride.
More reverse circles.
Okay.
We're just looking to we're just looking to attack multiple times and just tear at that hand. 1 damage is all we need. 1 damage is all we need, making sure our opponent cannot play the turn on the next one, because even though we can't swing with the Vanguard, if we're able to get those divine gauges to our rear guards, they'll still be able to put up a formidable offense. Using Carol's skill to once again and deck thin the deck by 1, putting a Nightmare Doll into Soul. -1 card, that's not a trigger in deck.
And I mean, if Hakase has the last Carol in hand, they could just still go for Dust and just for the ultimate you would not win this move.
Let's take a look at what happens. Okay. So, paying cost with Stride with the crit, and I believe we will just go into another set of Mega Tricks. Getting that double Vanguard attack. Getting that Leslie onto one of those Axel circles. You also have 4 open counterblasts now as well to play with, like the Leslie and Alice's. We've got the Ginny still in Soul as well. We are looking to put up a full frontal attack here. Calling out the Alice, calling out the Nightmare Doll, Lindy to the front row. Just as a 15k attacker here. I do see another PG in the grip as well. Just deciding what else to call to the front. At this point, you also, like, although you want to be aggressive, you also want to be conservative as well at the same time, because, like I said, if you're able to attack, get that Divine Gauge onto the side Yggdrasil there, we're able to attack with that twice, and if your hand isn't healthy enough, that still might be able to spell a game.
That is true. How many cards are left in Suo's deck, though?
I want to say somewhere along the lines of either 2 or 3. Because we had somewhere around 10, followed by a 4 drive check with a draw trigger. He knows he can't guard it. He knows there's no way.
Then it is
2 cards in hand.
There's 2 cards left in deck.
Oh, no, it's 1. That was the last card in deck.
No, he took a 6 damage, and that was the last card. So there's 2 cards left in deck.
And Hakase is your Bushiroad Rumble 2021 NALA champion, bringing WCC to the championship with Nightmare Dolls. Big congratulations to Hakase for winning it, and most definitely also a big congratulations for Suo for bringing that amazing play with Genesis's Regalia. Everybody give a good...
That was some finals. I can't say nothing much about it. I was on the edge of my seat looking and just intently like, okay, he's gonna do that, and then he's probably gonna do that, and he can guard with this, and just doing the numbers and seeing the games played. And I love how both players played. They knew exactly what each of the other can do. And that one move I gotta praise on Suo's side, stopping his attack, leaving Hakase 3 damage while he was at 3 damage as well, and just pass turn. Simple move, but very impactful.
Yeah, a lot of what we saw in this last game here in the finals was very micromanaged, smaller decision trees that you don't really usually think of, because when you think of Vanguard, you're like, boom, I want my opponent to go to 6 as soon as possible. Everything Vanguard, boom, you're at 5. Next turn, I will win. But like you just said, Suo being able to notice like what the opponent's game plan is, respecting the opponent's win con, knows, oh, I might not have enough to guard this next turn if I was to push to 5, so I'm going to actually pull back a bit and try and go for lethal on the next turn. Peter, give me your thoughts.
I think, that was like really good play from Hakase, especially also not only that micromanagement, but also things like, for example, getting that Carol back over and over allowed to get more and more Excel circles, which also, because each Excel circle lets you draw a card, it also, in addition to thinning your deck, it let you draw cards, help you get resources, and I mean, we saw really good play, even at only 2 face-up damage, like able to provide like actual threats for game.
Indeed, it's like like I think my favorite play this game was definitely on Suo's side. Seeing him actually split the crits in a way that, not only splitting crits in a way that leaves heal triggers live as an option for Suo, but also making it a way that every attack going forward would put your opponent into a very hard decision tree, was probably a big highlight of the game for me. Philip, give me a highlight that you saw this time around.
Oof, there's so many to pick. I'm gonna ignore the elephant in the room and the highlight of the. It's pretty obvious how that changed the flow of the game. What I do want to highlight is pick and choosing your Norn abilities that turn prior that we saw the overture. We saw Suo calculate, all right, this is the number of cards I have in my deck. I know there's a draw trigger. More likely, I'm assuming he knew there was a draw trigger in there somewhere. So, swing with Minerva, use Yggdrasil, or use Norn, restander, so forth and so forth. Swing with the column, not use Norn because I know it's gonna restand because of my Vanguard. So now I can use the Norn on the last attack, on when it restands again, when I can boost with it again. And it's just that thinking like 5 steps ahead, knowing what your deck is capable of, knowing what cards, where the damage is, numbers, and especially the first attack of that turn, swinging with the 1 damage column. Because it's one of those things, like, it sounds so simple, but it's so impactful, because if your opponent guards it, that's eating cards out of their hand that they're gonna not be able to use for the other swing. But if your opponent takes it, now they're going to 3 damage. Now they're 1 critical trigger on the drive check away from your other swings, especially the one that's swinging 3 times on the rear guard, being lethal.
What about you, Peter? What was your most memorable moment of this BRO 2021 finals?
My most memorable moment was, so the turn before Hakase had defensively checked the defensive overtrigger. We saw Suo guard with an overtrigger, which means that it not only was the defensive overtrigger pretty much shutting down the turn, but also the guarding with it guaranteed that there was no way for Suo to be able to hit over.
Yes. Now, I do want to look over the bracket one more time, see the full path we've taken from start to finish.
All right, run it down from the top for me, Philip.
So we started this top 8 bracket today with Royal Lover versus King Udon, Hakase versus Solemn, Suo versus I keep, for the love of me, I can never. And then Zio versus Notorious. And we see the path Hakase took from top 8 to all the way to finals. Beating Solemn, beating Grand Blue, having to face another Grand Blue with Royal Lover, and then here in the finals, facing against Genesis, coming out on top, our champion, Hakase. What do you guys have to say?
Obviously, big congratulations to Hakase, but we also gotta give the huge shout out to everyone else in top 8 as well. They all played their hearts out. All of their deck lists were finely tuned for their needs. Suo bringing Genesis to representation. Big shout outs to King Udon as well, being able to bring OTT and a very different build of OTT using Facility Magus alongside the Hexagonal for that extra drive check as well. Very unique build. And obviously all the Grand Blue players for their cute little different attacks that they played. Peter, what about you?
I think that overall it was a pretty good top 8. I mean, we got to see very diverse matchups, and the fact that even though Grand Blue, we all at the start of the tournament were like, oh, this is the public enemy number 1. This is the deck that you got to watch out for. And even though half of the players in top 8 were Grand Blue, only one of them made it to the top 4. It showed even though Grand Blue is very strong, if you prepare for it, you can beat it.
I completely agreed. It's one of those things people a lot of times confuse representation with a winning deck. Now, don't get me wrong. The reasons Grand Blue was so highly represented is because it is a strong deck. It can get you all the way to the top. But just because the representation was high doesn't mean it immediately has the most chances of winning. And we've shown this today. Top 8, 4 Grand Blue players. It got them all the way to the top 8. But Royal Lover, the only one that managed to get to semifinals, and even that couldn't get even farther. Just because the deck has high representation doesn't mean it's going to win the tournament. It's usually the players who prepare to face those decks that come out on top.
And that's just exactly what we saw, like with Zeo, Shadow Paladin, and deck list. You saw Zeo bring in a lot of what I like to call Grand Blue hate in the Ogma, in the Diablo. Your opponent not being able to stick the board on because of Night Rose's skill, you're able to just tear at their hand. And if you're able to, and if they only have 5 cards in hand, that spells game. Anything else to say about today's top 8? I feel like there's a few more things I wanted to watch. I definitely wanted to see Suo and Chalice's first game, having because Suo very used to this Grand Blue matchup now since yesterday. I wanted to see what Suo was able to do against Chalice's deck. And definitely wanted to see Royal Lover play against OTT, something as well. Like time and time we say again, OTT being able to present multiple win cons. Calico Momo, Ishishima Tom, Waka Hirume stacking the overtrigger. But unfortunately, just a bad matchup into Grand Blue. And I wonder if the matchups were just a bit shuffled, how different it would look. But for you guys watching today, we have something special for you, and that is an interview with your champion, Hakase. Hakase, how are you today? How are you feeling? Hakase, you're muted.
You're muted. Hakase, you're muted. We can't hear you.
I am so sorry. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, yes. We hear you.
Okay, so going back to the first question, how am I today? I'm feeling very happy. Fact that I won. Feeling a little bit sad that I won in a way that didn't seem very exactly deserving. I don't think I was going to win, but Overtrigger comes and saves the day. I'm sure Chad had a lot of excitement when they see that happen.
Now run us through your deck strategy. Like when I saw the Nightmare deck list that like WCC like presented with like the V Collection Nightmare Doll engine, in my mind the gears are turning and I'm thinking, oh, so this is a stride denial strategy. But in your final game against Suo, you opted to not actually ride back down into a grade 2. Run me through your strategy on it.
Yeah, so it's one of those matchups that happens where this strategy itself is a little bit irrelevant, simply because Genesis has access to Marduk, which means even if I was on grade 2, they will be able to go into a stride anyway. So the fact that I have to discard 2 to go back to a grade 2 is just more of a minus than a useful strategy. So it's one of those matchups where this strategy is not as good as usually.
And I think we had mentioned that early on as well, like in that game of saying like that you might not, like us commentators, we were talking about how you might end up just staying on grade 3 because of Marduk. So that's interesting to see that like you sort of had the same thought process.
Yeah, exactly. Like I said, even though going down back to grade 2 is a good strategy because you stop them from striding, it does come with a cost of having to discard 2 for it. And you're rewriting a grade 2, which means you're not getting that marker or back 1. So you do have to consider the cost of doing it, and in the Genesis matchup, simply not worthwhile.
I'm very happy to hear your insight about that. So, like, ignoring just the finals, let's talk about the entire tournament as a whole. What did you do to like prepare for this?
A lot of testing with my shout out to my WCC crew. We as you may have noticed, almost everyone from W brought this list. We worked on it together. We decided it's probably one of the best decks to bring to this format. It's very versatile. It's got, as you said, the ride down strategy. It's got a good finishing combo, and it's just a very consistent deck as well. And being able to utilize the consistency, and I guess that's what made it come out on top.
Yeah. And do you have anyone that you want to like shout out? Any like particular people, maybe?
WCC boys, Derek, shout out to you. You're the big Hell Moon Lord. And Kai and Kelvin, who's in Sydney with me, so we test together all the time. And then also testing with Toby, Solom. Had a great game with Solom on top 8. I think everyone saw that on stream as well. That was very wild. And shout out to all my opponents during this tournament. Every game was very fun. All my top 8 matches were insane and very incredible and memorable. Also shout out to Steven, who came second. And he might have won if I didn't hit that overtrigger.
It's very good to hear from you. And once again, congratulations on winning BRO 2021 for the NALA Premium format.
Very much. Thanks for casting. Shout out to you guys. You guys
Thank you.
did all the hard work for 2 days.
Thank you. All right, let's once again head on back to the brackets to take a look at Hakase's journey to champion. Once again, to review everything again, we have in our top 8, Royal Lover, repping Grand Blue, King Udon, repping OTT, Hakase, our champion, repping Pale Moon, Maxime Solemn, bringing Grand Blue, Duo, our runner-up, with Regalias and Genesis, Chalice, also Grand Blue, Notorious Set, also with their unique Grand Blue build, and ZO, repping Grand Blue Hate Shadow Paladin.
And I want to see actually who got third, because I do know that Royal Lover and ZO were playing. I want to see if ZO's anti-Grand Blue build did work, or if Royal Lover was able to overcome that.
That is a very good question, just because we never got to see Shadow Paladin really go off, and it was an unfortunate set of circumstances the way the game turned out. That's just the nature of the game. But if it did go off, if those tech options really did show their merit in the third placement, we'll see. The only way to really find out is with the result, but we'll see.
For sure. Now, if you've been enjoying BRO 2021, do not fear, because this is not the end of it. We have some more events coming up for BRO 2021 as well. This week was only Premium, and next week we'll be doing Vanguard V Premium. And the week after that, well, not the week after that, but our next week of BRO 2021 will be Vanguard Standard. By now, I believe DBT03 should be back.
Way you can say it. Next year.
Oh,
next year. BRO 2021 in our year 2022. And lastly, to finish off Bushiroad Rumble 2021, we have Weiss Schwarz. If you love anime like I love anime, this is the event to watch, because this, you see your favorite anime series battle for the stage.
Man, what an unforgettable 2-day event. This has sparked the joy for Vanguard again in me. Regionals have always been those events that you build memories with your friends, you build, relationships, you get experience. When I went to my first regionals, coming back from it, completely different person and player, knowing when to guard, knowing when not to guard, just seeing and getting exposed. And unfortunately, with everything happening, getting BRO, getting that chance to play again on a competitive level, to see other play styles, other different types of people playing, different mentalities, is just so refreshing. And I cannot wait for the other 3 events coming up.
And remember, there are 3 regions for each of them, so if you want to be an absolute madman, you can enter all 3 and just hope that you have the mental capacity to stay awake for that long.
Sleep is for the weak,
and weakness is a sin.
Yes, man, you just I actually wanted to segue to this part. I just wanted, before we close out, what's one of the things you most remember from these last 2 days? Go.
Cardweep playing Tachikaze, doing the Spino Commando ride down to Savage Mercenary, and also shoutouts to Jin, the opponent, being so cooperative and allowing us to showcase that on stream.
Yes.
I was about
Peter?
to say that exactly. Also, that Glendios deck, just seeing the deck, and I saw so many people also online, like, remember to use the hashtag BRO2021 to actually post that exact deck list saying, wait, I can see something happening here.
Man, he stole yours, you stole mine, so I gotta go with Clarence. Seeing a Clarence sword on stream in the tournament and actually, like, not saying it was a bad list, like actually good, like doing exactly what the deck wants, what the player intended the deck to do, that just sent so many nice butterflies in my stomach.
Yeah.
But that's enough from us. I'm sure you guys are also tired from all the excitement as well. Philip, give me some closing statements, and then I'll give it to Peter, and then I'll close us off.
I want to say one more time, congratulations to Hakase, and good games to everybody participating in this tournament. Hopefully everybody had a great time. Win or lose, doesn't matter. We just play this game because we love it. Yes, it's a competitive standpoint, but you wouldn't be here if you didn't love this game. And I just want to give a huge shout out to every single participant. On top of that, I want to give another huge shout out to everybody behind the scenes. We've been talking all day today, but it's not just us. We have a great team behind us, helping us, talking us to the ears, giving us cues. Everybody that organized this, that brought you this, Bushiroad as a company, just a big shout out and thank you to everyone involved.
Yeah, and not just everyone involved on Bushiroad side, Elephant as well, the production company, and also the tournament organizers, because, I mean, this is the first time that this tournament organizer's been working for North America, so already huge props there for running it so smoothly, and, I mean, that's, like, such a good job overall, and...
Yes, and don't forget the judges.
Yes, the judges as well. There are judges for every single region, and they're all different sets of judges. So that's how you know if you're able to get consistently good judges across the entire world, then you know you did a good job with your game.
And then we've obviously thanked the staff, we've thanked the judges, we've thanked the production team, but I also want to thank each and every one of you guys watching us today. Without you guys, the chat, the audience, being so invested in this game, enjoying everything you see, this kind of stuff doesn't happen. So a big thank you to you guys as well. I have been Toku from Yellow Card Vanguard.
My name is Philip. You can find me at Top Deck Heroes.
And I'm Peter, and you can find me on Twitter at PeterPBE.
And we are out.
There we go.
Woo!